Chapter 677. The night wind blew gently, lifting the thin veil. At this moment, Xiaosu had already reached the entrance of the Lin estate. As dawn approached, the earth fell into a deep sleep. The silent night passed by slowly as time passed. When the sun shone on the bed, Chu Qingyan, who was asleep, felt warm all over. She couldn't help but turn over, and her fingertips accidentally touched something soft. She gradually opened her eyes and met a pair of dark eyes. While she was still in a daze, a soft tongue licked her cheek. It was wet. Chu Qingyan, who woke up from her sleep, remembered that she had taken in a few white dumplings last night. She couldn't help but smile and greet them. "Good morning, little dumplings." The three in front of her laughed even more happily and bounced on the bed. Chu Qingyan suddenly felt that today would be very wonderful. She got up to wash up. Xining had already laid out breakfast. When she took the first bite of the meat bun, Chu Qingyan asked casually, "What did your highness eat this morning?" "This servant doesn't know. The kitchen sent someone to bring breakfast here early in the morning." Xining shook her head. Chu Qingyan was stunned. She and the ice cube usually ate together, but the kitchen sent breakfast over this morning. She was a little surprised. Could it be that the ice cube was still angry? That's not right. Shouldn't she be the one who was angry? She took a big bite to vent her anger, but in the end, she had no appetite at all. She broke off the meat bun and gave it to the white dumplings. "Master, are you going out today?" Xining saw her master get up and couldn't help but ask with her head tilted. Chu Qingyan nodded. "I'm going out to do something. You and Jean Xian will follow me." Xining cheered. She had just arrived in Jiangnan a few days ago and hadn't gone out yet. She was full of curiosity about this place. It was great that her master was going out today. Chu Qingyan saw through her thoughts, but she couldn't help teasing her. "Are you happy because you can go out with me, or because you can go out with Jean Xian?" "Master, you're making fun of this servant again." Xining turned her head and snorted. Chu Qingyan couldn't help laughing. Chu Qingyan paused for a moment as she walked out of the courtyard. She had forgotten to tell Big Ice Cube about her bet with Hua Xiu last night. However, she was not in the mood to report to him about the situation last night. Now she was hesitating whether she should go over and tell him, but she still remembered how cold he was to her last night, so she decided to leave him alone for a day. At this moment, Turin walked over. When he saw her gaze, he thought that she was going to look for his master. He stepped forward and bowed, then said, "Little master, master is not in the manor today." "Not here." "Where did he go?" Chu Qingyan was just about to leave when she heard this news. She couldn't help but retract her foot, feeling a little confused. After coming to Jiangnan for so long, Big Ice Cube had only taken her out for a stroll. He had basically stayed in the study and rarely went out. Why did he suddenly leave the residence? And it was still so early. Could it be that he had something urgent to attend to? Turin's face also showed a trace of confusion. "Master went out in the middle of the night last night and hasn't returned yet. This subordinate also doesn't know where master went. But Hualing is by master's side, so you don't have to worry." It seemed that Big Ice Cube had made up his mind on the spur of the moment. Otherwise, as a hidden guard, how could Turin not know his whereabouts? But Turin's last sentence made Chu Qingyan feel a little unnatural. "I'm not worried at all. I'm very relieved." After saying this, she felt that she had overreacted. She raised her head and saw that Turin also had a slightly surprised expression. Chu Qingyan coughed lowly and immediately changed the topic. "Then, I also need to go out. If you have something to do, go ahead and do it." As soon as she finished speaking, she took Xining and Jinxin and strode out the door. Turin looked at her departing figure and couldn't help rubbing his chin. Last night, master was a little strange. Today, the little princess's words and actions were also a little strange. At this time, in the Lin residence, two figures faced each other in silence. The tea placed in front of them was changed every once in a while. Lin Fengyi picked up the teacup again and lifted the lid. Steam filled his eyes. He pinched the lid and gently stirred the floating tea leaves. The dark green color of the tea deepened little by little. Then, he held the lid and leisurely took a sip. This was already the 12th time that a new tea had been brewed. Lin Fengyi didn't immediately put down the teacup after drinking. Instead, he turned his gaze to the person in front of him. I've been sitting here with you for an entire night. The sky is already bright. Don't tell me you really want to come over and play 6 people with me. Even if the table in my residence catches your eye, just say the word and I'll send someone to deliver it to your residence. You don't have to keep an eye on it. His tone carried a hint of ridicule and inquiry. When he received the news that his good friend was visiting last night, he was very surprised. Looking at the time, it was already close to the middle of the night. His good friend usually wouldn't suddenly visit him in the middle of the night unless there was an extremely important matter that needed to be discussed. So he didn't have time to think too much before he got up and dressed to see him. But to Lin Fengyi's surprise, after sitting with his good friend for an entire night, he leaned against the back of the chair and stared blankly at the table for the entire night without saying anything. He originally thought that he had encountered something that was difficult to talk about and quietly waited for him to speak. But who would have thought that he would wait for the next day? Even though he was very composed, he couldn't sit still and couldn't help but ask. What could possibly disturb the extremely intelligent Xiaosu? He was very curious. As though he was disturbed by his good friend's question, Xiaosu slowly took back the hand that was supporting his forehead. Ripples slowly formed in his calm eyes. There were thousands of emotions hidden in his eyes, but they seemed to be separated by a veil that people could not see through. Fengyi, do you have a woman you like? When the words were said, the cup in Lin Fengyi's hand almost fell to the ground. He raised his head in fright. He couldn't imagine that such a question would come from his cold good friend's mouth, and in such a serious tone. But his good friend still looked at him with a very sincere expression, waiting for him to answer. Lin Fengyi felt that his good manners couldn't be maintained at this time. He put down the cup to prevent the cup from being ruined. He wiped the water off his hands as he asked, "Why are you suddenly asking this? Don't tell me you have someone you like." "No, don't you like your little Wang Fei? Do you have someone else in your heart? But this doesn't seem like something you would do." Lin Fengyi, who usually spoke succinctly, couldn't help but ask a long question because of his good friend's sudden question. "Answer my question first." Xiaosu still persisted with his previous question. Hearing this, Lin Fengyi couldn't help but laugh lowly and shake his head. "Do you think I look like someone who likes a woman?" Xiaosu raised his head. His good friend had been promoted in recent years and devoted himself to work. He really didn't have the time and energy to meet a woman. Also, while he appeared warm on the surface, he was colder than him on the inside. "It seems that I asked the wrong person." Xiaosu prepared to stand when he finished speaking. "Wait, don't jump to conclusions. Maybe I haven't eaten pork, but I have seen pigs run." Lin Fengyi's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 678. Chu Qingyan led Xining and Jean Xin out of the bank and walked towards Hibiscus Pavilion. After walking for a while, she heard someone calling her name. She turned around and saw Higashio Motetsu and his servants standing not far away. What a coincidence! Why are you here? Chu Qingyan went up to greet him and asked with some surprise. "I knew you would come, so I specially waited here." Higashio Motetsu didn't argue and directly explained the reason. Because he knew that even though Qingyan had forgiven him, it didn't mean that she didn't suspect him. He might as well be honest with her. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. "You're honest. Let's go, I haven't eaten breakfast yet. Let's find a place to eat together. It's better than being stared at here." Higashio Motetsu pointed out as he looked around. On the street, there were 2 handsome men with such outstanding appearances and different temperaments. Moreover, the servants beside them were more handsome than the young boys and girls of small families. How could they not attract attention? So in a short while, they attracted countless gazes. Chu Qingyan also felt that these gazes were indeed dazzling, so she nodded in agreement. The group of people found a kanji shop near Hibiscus Pavilion and sat down. Chu Qingyan had already eaten breakfast, but because she was angry with Xiao Su, she didn't eat much. Now that the Jiangnan specialty kanji was served, her appetite was easily aroused and she also picked up the spoon to taste it. You really plan to do business? Even though he already got the answer last night, Higashio Motetsu was still a bit doubtful. Didn't you see that I already made a bet with someone? If I lose, won't I lose face? Chu Qingyan glanced at him. Higashio Motetsu shrugged, but do you really think you can win the bet? Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes. I haven't even started on the battlefield yet, and you're already pouring cold water on me. Don't you feel embarrassed? Higashio Motetsu chuckled. Why don't you see for yourself? He pointed to the side of her body. Chu Qingyan looked in the direction of his finger. Opposite them was Hibiscus Pavilion. At this time, the sun was already high up in the sky. The waiters of Hibiscus Pavilion were listlessly greeting the passers-by, but it was of no use. Basically, no one entered the store. On the other hand, the entrance of Fragrant Powder Pavilion was filled with customers. From time to time, there would be waiters singing loudly, "Come again next time." It could be said that one business was as good as the heavens, while the other was as bad as the earth. After realizing the truth, Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched. No wonder Hua Xiaoli agreed so quickly. He had this trick up his sleeve. So, you're going to forfeit? Higashio Motetsu fanned him from the side. Chu Qingyan glared at him. Is retreating without a fight my style? Hurry up and eat. After eating, we'll go take a look at the scene. Higashio Motetsu shrugged. A moment later, they were already standing at the entrance of Hibiscus Pavilion. However, the waiters in the store glanced at them and quickly lowered their heads to doze off. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Could it be that just because they were dressed as men, they wouldn't treat customers? She led everyone into the store. Higashio Motetsu waved his fan and said, I didn't think that this young master would actually enter this kind of rouge and face powder shop one day. Chu Qingyan continued, if you don't like it, we won't force you. It's my pleasure. Chu Qingyan didn't bother with him anymore. Instead, she said to Xining, go take a look at these rouge and face powder. Because Xining used to study these things when she had nothing to do in the Fu, Chu Qingyan let her try out the quality of these products. She, on the other hand, observed the furnishings and decorations of this store. Perhaps it was because they saw Chu Qingyan's servant girls picking out the products in a proper manner, the waiters who were watching by the side immediately changed their indifferent expressions and eagerly introduced the products. After staying in Hibiscus Pavilion for a while, Chu Qingyan led everyone to leave. Master, you didn't see how long the waiters and shopkeepers' faces were when we didn't buy anything. Xining said with a pout. Chu Qingyan chuckled. The reason why there's a difference in sales between the two stores is obviously obvious. Before they reached Fragrant Powder Pavilion, the other party's waiters had already walked out of the door. They bent over and greeted with a smile, Dear customers, who are you buying for? You don't have to worry about the things in our Fragrant Powder Pavilion. Chu Qingyan and Higashio Motetsu looked at each other and then walked in. As usual, it was still Xining who was choosing, and Chu Qingyan who was observing. Although Chu Qingyan and Higashio Motetsu didn't touch the rouge and face powder, the waiters of Fragrant Powder Pavilion didn't neglect them. On the contrary, they were very enthusiastic in receiving them. Very quickly, Chu Qingyan found the reason. After a while, she paid for the rouge that Xining chose and left the store. At this time, Hua Xiao, who had appeared out of nowhere, walked in front of them. What did you get on the first day? Hua Xiao spoke casually, but it was hard to hide the anticipation in her tone. Chu Qingyan crossed her arms and looked at her. She chuckled. Young master, you've given this Chu a big problem. Is that so? Hua Xiu brushed away the non-existent dust on her body and said matter-of-factly, if the problem is too simple, then there's no challenge. Don't you think so, young Master Chu? Chu Qingyan raised an eyebrow. Then let's talk in private. This Chu will solve the problem for young master. Hua Xiu was slightly surprised. Did she already have a solution? Alright, this way please. At this time in the Lin Fu. Tell me, what happened to you? Is it related to your young Princess Fei? Lin Fengyi asked directly. Xiao Su lightly tapped the tea lid, a trace of confusion on his face. His tone was faint, but not as calm as usual. Her father asked me when I would marry Qing Yan. Isn't this very normal? She has been betrothed to you for 5 years. Logically speaking, she should have reached the age of marriage. Shouldn't you put this matter on the agenda? Lin Fengyi's tone was puzzled. His hand paused and he sighed slightly. Actually, I've never considered this matter. You don't want to be responsible for her? Lin Fengyi was shocked. No, I want to keep Qing Yan by my side, but I've never thought about this relationship. Towards his good friend's shock, he felt his scalp tighten. What do you mean? Lin Fengyi frowned, not understanding the meaning of his words. I'm already used to Qing Yan's company, but I've never considered marriage. It's not because I don't want to be responsible, but because I've always treated her as a child. Now that she's grown up, I don't know what kind of status or attitude I should use to treat her. A trace of confusion appeared in his eyes. This was probably the first time Xiao Su had expressed his thoughts so straightforwardly. So you asked me if I had a woman I liked just now to help you determine your feelings for Qing Yan? Lin Fengyi felt it was very inconceivable. And, I wanted to see if you had any experience, but you didn't. His tone was calm, but it could not hide the disdain. Lin Fengyi raised an eyebrow and said simply and directly, in short, it's just one sentence. Do you like your young Princess Fei? Chapter 679. In short, it's just one question. Do you like your little princess consort? These words were like an arrow that had left the bow, hitting the heart. Xiao Su instantly froze, his expression drifting. He didn't even realize that the tea in his hand had almost spilled out. Seeing his good friend's reaction, Lin Fengyi felt relieved. He had wanted to remind him tactfully, but it was him who had despised him just now. Seeing your reaction, I already know the answer. Lin Fengyi looked at the teacup in his hand and smiled. His tone was full of mockery. Xiao Su finally realized his gaffe. He put the teacup back on the table and wiped the tea stains on his clothes. His fingers were still stiff. How would you know the answer to something that even I don't know? Lin Fengyi raised his eyebrows. Let me ask you. Do you want to keep Qing Yan by your side forever and can't bear for her to leave? Xiao Su curled his fingers and remained silent. Second question. If someone else appears by your side one day, will you still be able to sit still? His expression turned slightly cold. How could there be someone other than him by her side? Last question. Are you willing to go through thick and thin with her? He felt that he should leave the sweetness to her and taste the bitterness himself. It seemed that the answer had already appeared. Lin Fengyi asked 3 questions in a row and carefully observed his good friend's expression. Then he said, it's so obvious. Why can't you see it clearly? Xiao Su pursed his lips, his expression tense. He was silent for a moment and then slowly said, maybe I'm not used to the sudden change in my identity. Lin Fengyi shook his head and laughed. He was still digesting the shock that this matter brought to him. I always thought that you would never touch love. I didn't expect that you would make me see you in a different light today. I also didn't expect that I would become like this one day. Xiao Su sighed. No, I think it's good that you're like this. You're like a god standing in the clouds who has finally walked down the altar and touched the mortal world. Lin Fengyi said with a relaxed expression, I still remember that among the 3 of us, I was always worried that you would still be alone when you were old. I didn't expect that you would become enlightened earlier than I expected. Are you praising me? After thinking it through, Xiaosu seemed to have unloaded a heavy burden from his body. His expression also relaxed, and now he was in the mood to joke with him. Lin Fengyi smiled brightly. Isn't that the case? Who would have thought that ice could be warmed? It seemed like nothing was absolute in this world. It all depended on whether one met the right person or not. Just like Ling Feng, he passed by thousands of flowers, but not a single leaf touched him. Now that he has 3 children, the world is unpredictable. Cherish what you have and let yourself live freely. That is the most important thing. It's rare for you to be so emotional today. Xiaosu picked up the new cup of tea and took a sip. He continued, actually, with your popularity and talent, as long as you spread the word, I'm afraid your doorstep will be trampled by matchmakers. Lin Fengyi choked. I don't want all of you to be so bored that you want to matchmake me. You just have to take care of yourselves. Xiaosu raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. But to be honest, I'm quite worried about you. You've finally become enlightened. How are you going to tell Qingyan? You're not good with words. If you say the wrong thing and express the wrong intention, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to clean up the mess. His worry wasn't unreasonable. It was just that his good friend was cold and didn't talk much. If he didn't marry the bride and scared her away, that would be terrible. Xiaosu's face darkened. Was he as bad as he said? Thus, Xiaosu snorted coldly and left without saying a single word to him. Only Lin Fengyi stayed in the hall alone, overjoyed. It was rare to see Xiaosu in such a distressed state. If only Ling Feng was here to watch, it would be difficult to see him in such a different state. However, Lin Fengyi still admired Chu Qingyan in his heart. She had changed his good friend's temperament for many years, and she had moved his 1,000-year ice heart. At this time, a subordinate came in to report. Sir, the officers arrested 2 people who caused a ruckus at Ming Man restaurant last night. Lin Fengyi stood and said casually, you can handle this kind of thing. There's no need to inform this official. Sir, the main thing is that these 2 people have a special identity. The subordinate stammered. Oh. How special? Lin Fengyi frowned. As someone who had become a subordinate of the Jiangnan prefectural magistrate at such a young age, he had long known that this man did not like other people using his identity to talk about things. However, he felt that this matter was very troublesome because these 2 people had significant backgrounds. Sir, one is concubine Lu's younger brother, and the other is Jiangnan's Hua family's son. When Lin Fengyi heard the identity of the second person, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. It seemed that this Hua family's son had committed a lot of crimes, and every time something happened, his cousin would come and cause trouble for him. Thinking of that little fox baring her fangs and brandishing her claws, Lin Fengyi felt an indescribable headache. Let them be for a day first. This official will deal with them tomorrow. Seeing that his official had spoken, the official immediately agreed happily. As long as his official made a move, there was nothing that couldn't be solved. At this time, Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiuli had found a place to sit. It was a private room in the tea house. Does young Master Chu have any ideas after seeing this? Hua Xiuli asked with a smile that wasn't a smile. Chu Qingyan didn't plan to beat around the bush and said directly, just now, I've already visited Hibiscus Pavilion and Fragrant Powder Pavilion and made a comparison. Actually, whether it's the color or the quality of your products, they're all on par. However, why would there be a difference in sales between the 2? I feel that it's because of these 2 reasons. Although Hua Xiuli had maintained a distant appearance from the start, at this time, she couldn't help but perk up her ears. First, your service attitude is simply too bad. There's no enthusiasm. Sales is a service industry. If you can't let the customer buy happily, then it can be said that you've failed. Moreover, you treat people differently. Although visiting rouge and powder shops is a woman's specialty and men don't seem to be involved, but you can't reject potential customers because of this. Maybe they want to buy something for their wife, daughter, sister, elder, or younger generation. After saying the first point, Hua Xiuli had already forgotten that she was still holding the teacup in her hand and looked at her with slight surprise. Higashio Motetsu also couldn't help but reveal a praising smile. Second point, there's a problem with your display. The product's display should be matched with its effect and the effect of other products. You also need to pay attention to the product's packaging as well as the visual impact and beauty. Your display isn't organized and it's messy. It's not easy for customers to pick out what they want. Moreover, you don't have a fixed number of recommended products. So if customers need your opinion, your staff will provide a reference that will dazzle the customers. In summary, this is the result that I've come to. Chu Qingyan spread her hands. Previously, she had used her summer vacation to work in a large brand's counter, so she understood how to avoid mistakes in the service process. Chapter 680. So what's your solution? After listening, Hua Xiuli felt that Chu Qingyan's analysis was very reasonable, but she still felt that she couldn't reveal too much of her emotions in front of her opponent, so she calmly asked. If you plan for the long-term sales, it's very simple. Start with the service. A smile is the most beautiful language. If you can let the customers feel at home, then the service is good. After that, train the staff and let them know the effects of each product by heart. Only then will it be easy to recommend them. Lastly, redesign the decorations so that people can see it clearly at a glance. It will look simple and elegant, as well as high-end. Chu Qingyan said neither hurriedly nor slowly. In the modern era, this was a method that could be easily grasped at one's fingertips. It didn't take much thought to say. Hua Xiuli also thought of this, but she wasn't satisfied. Young Master Chu, you said that you have a long-term plan. Then what about the short term? Our bet is only for 3 days. Chu Qingyan smiled and said, this short-term strategy requires the young master's help. Oh, there's no harm in saying it. Hua Xiuli's interest was already piqued. Although you are the boss of Hibiscus Pavilion, I have to say that the gap between you and Fragrant Powder Pavilion has been widened. Your reputation and good reviews are not as good as Fragrant Powder Pavilion. If you want to change this situation, you have to start with advertising. That is to create hype and drive public opinion. Chu Qingyan held her chin and said with bright eyes. Although she felt uncomfortable being evaluated like this, but what the other person said was the truth. Hua Xiuli held the teacup and seriously listened to her analysis. Publicity, hype, public opinion, these words sound very fresh. Higashio Motetsu interjected with interest. Hua Xiuli nodded in agreement. Chu Qingyan shrugged her shoulders. These words were not unfamiliar in the modern era. She continued, there are 2 methods. The first is to find a famous lady who has authority in the eyes of Jiangnan women. If her usual dressing can make others scramble to imitate her, that would be the best. As soon as Chu Qingyan finished speaking, Hua Xiu's eyes widened. You mean you want her to use our product and then help promote it? That's right. Chu Qingyan nodded. This is using the celebrity effect and the herd mentality of people. If this socialite can promote it in her social circle, it will spread like wildfire. Soon, many people will know about Hibiscus Pavilion. What you need to do at this time is to do 2 or 3 recommendation series according to the season. Hua Xiuli couldn't help but applaud, your method is not bad. I happen to know a few girls who meet your requirements. The first method is not difficult. Chu Qingyan smiled. Okay, we've approved the first proposal. The second proposal was inspired by my visit to your store today. I'd like to hear the details. Hua Xiuli personally poured a cup of tea for Chu Qingyan and then said expectantly. Chu Qingyan took the teacup and took a sip to moisten her throat. Then, she continued, I realized that we can actually look further. We don't necessarily think that the main customers are women. We should expand the consumer group. Some women can't go out and will ask their husbands, sons, or brothers to buy for them. So, If we can invite a famous couple to help and let the husband buy products for the wife, then we can do the same. This method has a few advantages. First, the man will feel that he won't lose face if he buys products for his wife and daughter. On the contrary, he will gain a reputation of caring for his family. Second, the woman will feel that her husband is considerate and will feel proud. If some women hear others showing off, they will also have the heart to compare with others and thus urge the men around them to buy. As soon as she finished speaking, Chu Qingyan received a few glowing eyes. She coughed a few times. What do you think? I didn't expect you to have such a talent for business. Higashio Motetsu retracted his folding fan. Although his face was full of disdain, the words that came out of his mouth already had a hint of approval. The little girl's performance today was simply beyond his expectations. He originally thought that she was just playing around, but he didn't expect that she really had the ability in this aspect. Higashio Motetsu thought that there was something about this little girl that he didn't know. Hua Xiaoli could no longer remain calm. Her nature was instantly exposed. Well said. My father just happens to know a couple that fits your requirements. When the time comes, we can just ask him to help us pull some strings. Then, do I need to do anything else? Yes, you have launched a series of discounts. The price will be discounted for men. Although the discount will reduce the profits, once the reputation is established, you won't have to worry about not having customers. Small profits but quick turnover. Chu Qingyan touched her chin and said with a smile. Okay, I'll go arrange it now. Hua Xiaoli couldn't sit still anymore. She immediately stood up and looked at Chu Qingyan with eyes full of fighting spirit. Young Master Chu, let's go together. I still need you to help me design a plan for Chenlai. I'm very honored by this invitation. Chu Qingyan also stood up with a smile. I'm also very honored. Their gazes met in midair. Suddenly, there was a feeling of regret that they hadn't met earlier. Higashio Motetsu, who was standing at the side, raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. Xiao Su, who had left the Lin mansion, quickly returned to the bank. What is Qingyan doing? Xiao Su, who was sitting in the hall, remembered that the two of them parted on bad terms last night and asked. Master, the young princess consort left early in the morning. Turin reported. Xiao Su frowned slightly. Did she say why she left? No. Turin regretted that he didn't ask the young princess consort more this morning. Do you need this subordinate to send someone to find the young princess consort? No need. Xiao Su waved his hand. Although he wanted to see the little fellow right now, after his conversation with Feng Yi, he still didn't know how to face the little fellow. Therefore, he had to wait for now. Yes. Turin felt that his master's mood was a bit strange today. He couldn't help but ask Huoling with his eyes. As for Huoling, he replied with a shrug. Last night, his master suddenly wanted to look for official Lin and he was sent away by his master. He didn't know what his master said to official Lin, but he felt that after his master left the Lin manor, his entire aura changed. He wasn't as cold as when he was in the bank. By the way, Master, the last time I sent someone to secretly investigate what Miss Yang did in the inn, I have found the whereabouts. The secret letter is here, but I haven't had the time to open it yet. After saying that, Tu Ling took out the letter from his bosom and walked forward to hand it to his master. Xiao Su didn't think that he would receive news of this at this time. He remembered the beautiful dream in his memory. He couldn't help but pause for a moment. Then, he didn't hesitate to take the letter. Chapter 681. When Chu Qingyan's group and Hua Xiaoli returned to Hibiscus Pavilion, the attendants who came out to greet them were shocked. Hua Xiaoli looked at her attendants and understood. Usually, when she came, these people would be very enthusiastic, so she never thought that the reason for the poor sales was because of the service. Because the goods of the two shops were similar, she couldn't understand why. She didn't think that the root of the problem was because of this. This is young Master Chu. He will be in charge of the business plan for the next 2 days. You must obey young Master Chu's orders unconditionally. If there are any mistakes, I will hold you accountable. Hua Xiu didn't waste any time on pleasantries as he introduced the person behind him to the crowd. Hua Xiu Li's full support made Chu Qingyan very satisfied. This way, she would have less trouble. 3 days was already very tight. If the people below didn't cooperate, it would be troublesome. Greetings, young Master Chu. Everyone immediately bowed. Chu Qingyan raised her hand. Because she had been by Xiao Su's side for a long time, her words and actions were imitated by him. She had a rather imposing manner. Introduce yourselves and your names and duties. The 4 or 5 attendants and the shopkeeper immediately followed her order and introduced themselves. We will suspend business for the afternoon. After understanding the general operation of Hibiscus Pavilion, Chu Qingyan began to assign tasks. Hua Xiuli also began to do what Chu Qingyan told her to do. Thus, the two divided the work. Higashio Motetsu, who was leisurely at the side, was also grabbed by her to be a strong man. First, Chu Qingyan gave the whole group a simple training in etiquette such as smiling and standing. Then, she began to redecorate the entire shop. He was busy for an entire day. When it was close to evening, Hua Xiuli, who went out, returned. She saw the brand new shop, the low-key luxurious layout, and the simple but generous display. Her eyes lit up. Wonderful, young Master Chu has good taste. Chu Qingyan wiped the sweat off her forehead. It felt good to be acknowledged. She said modestly, young master, you're exaggerating. Time is tight, so I can only decorate it so simply. If there's a chance next time, I'll redesign it for you. Hearing Chu Qingyan's words, Hua Xiuli was very happy. She waved her hand and said, okay, it's getting late. I'll treat you to a meal. After saying that, she took the lead and walked in front. Chu Qingyan was a little hesitant. It was getting late. She had left the bank for so long. If Big Ice Cube came back and couldn't find her, he would probably be scolded again. Higashio Motetsu seemed to know what she was thinking, and an unfathomable look flashed across his eyes. He reached out and put his hand on her shoulder, and said with a raised voice, "What's wrong? Are you worried that His Highness will check on you? You didn't come out to play, so why are you so concerned about his feelings? Are you afraid of him?" Chu Qingyan was provoked by him and couldn't help but glare at him, who said, "I'm afraid of him. It's just a meal. What's the big deal?" After saying that, Chu Qingyan shook off his hand and quickly followed Hua Xiuli in front. Higashio Motetsu retracted his hand and placed it on the folding fan. The curve of his lips flattened, and then under the urging of the people in front, it rose again and he slowly followed. Hua Xiuli led everyone into a lively restaurant. "Yo, young Master Hua, how come you have time to come here today? You even brought a friend. Come, I'll arrange a first-class private room for you. What do you think?" The waiter came up to them with a warm smile on his face. Bring one of your restaurant's signature dishes, and a pot of 10-year-old new hong." Hua Xiuli ordered the dishes with great familiarity, and then led everyone into the private room. It was worthy of being one of the best restaurants in Jiangnan. The downstairs was extraordinarily lively, and the smell of the food was enough to arouse one's appetite. However, the upstairs was quiet and elegant, and the decorations were pleasing to the eye. Chu Qingyan's gaze retracted from a landscape painting, and then fell on the person in front of her. "Young master, I didn't expect you to have the courage to manage the business well at such a young age." Chu Qingyan praised from the bottom of her heart. Although she had only interacted with Hua Xiuli a few times, from the rumors and the two's interactions, she couldn't help but admire him. Hua Xiuli laughed, "Young Master Chu, you don't have to call me young master. It sounds distant. You can just call me Xiuli, and I'll call you Chu Yen. Then it would be impolite to refuse. I also feel that it's more intimate to call each other by name." Chu Qingyan nodded. Actually, I've been by my father's side since I was young. Whether it was discussing business or inspecting the business, my father and I never left each other's side, so I was influenced by him. In addition, my father often taught me some business skills, so I know a little more than my peers. However, you're not bad either. Your eyes are sharp, and you were able to see the problems in my shop at a glance. Moreover, the solution was simple and direct. I'm impressed. Since she had already seen the other's ability, Hua Xiaoli didn't hide his words. Xiaoli, you don't have to be so polite. I'm just a greenhorn, and this is my first time doing business. There are definitely many areas where I'm lacking, so I'll have to trouble you to support me. Chu Qingyan waved her hand and said modestly. Hua Xiaoli didn't stand on ceremony with her. After a few words of greeting, he went straight to the point. I've already instructed people. The promotion will start tonight. Who knows, it might be effective tomorrow morning. I'll go to the shop tomorrow morning and see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted. Chu Qingyan's tone also returned to normal. Then, the two of them went on to confirm the details of the plan in detail. When all the dishes were served, Higashio Motetsu couldn't stand it anymore and protested, "You two can stop. Eat first. After a busy day, I'm almost starving to death." Hua Xiaoli sighed in relief. "Come, let's eat. We can talk after the meal." As soon as he finished speaking, a man dressed as a manservant hurried in. "Young master, something happened. Master wants you to go back quickly." Hua Xiaoli couldn't help but frown. At this time, Chu Qingyan said considerately, "The matters in the mansion are more important. You should go back first. We can eat together anytime. There's no rush." Hearing this, Hua Xiaoli put down his chopsticks and said apologetically to the two of them, "Then I'll go back first. Tell the waiter what you want to eat. Put it on my tab." After saying that, he left. The table was full of dishes. The color and luster were enticing, and the aroma overflowed. It made people's mouths twitch. Xining and Jin Xian had already been arranged by Hua Xiaoli to eat outside. Chu Qingyan gave up the idea of asking them to come in and eat together. Just as she was about to raise her chopsticks, a wine cup suddenly appeared in front of her. She followed the slender fingers that had yet to be retracted and met a pair of devilish phoenix eyes. "You seem to be in a bad mood today. Drink some wine to cheer you up." Chapter 682. Who says I'm in a bad mood? My ability has been affirmed, and I'm happy. Chu Qingyan glanced at him, then picked up some food with her chopsticks and stuffed it into her mouth to express her dissatisfaction with his words. Higashio Motetsu surrendered, "Fine, fine, fine, you're so stubborn, I don't care. Come, I'll treat you to a drink." Chu Qingyan looked at the sparkling wine in front of her, swallowed, and then shook her head, "I don't drink, I drink tea." "Why don't you drink? It's good for your health to drink some wine." Higashio Motetsu looked at her curiously. If the little girl accepted, maybe he would let her go, but seeing her hesitant face, he became interested and was determined to get a reason. Chu Qingyan rubbed her nose and said, "Actually, I really want to drink it. However, ever since I drank it the last time, His Highness has forbidden me from drinking alcohol. So please don't make things difficult for me. I will use tea in place of wine." Hearing that it was Xiaosu's idea, Higashio Motetsu put down his chopsticks and coldly snorted, "Qingyan, you're already 15 years old, not 5 years old. Why do you have to listen to Xiaosu's orders? You have to remember, you're a free person, not his subordinate, not his puppet. You don't need to listen to his orders, otherwise, I'll look down on you." Chu Qingyan saw that he was so serious, and her heart was in a dilemma. "Dongting, and it's just a cup of wine, you don't have to act like you're going to die on the battlefield. You're already an adult, you can do anything. Anyway, my wine is right here, you can drink it or not." Higashio Motetsu was competing with Xiaosu in his heart. Thinking that the little girl was so obedient to him, he became angry. Chu Qingyan looked at Higashio Motetsu, who had a dark expression on his face, and then looked at the fragrant wine. She remembered how cold Big Ice Cube was to her last night. She pursed her lips and seemed to have made a decision. Okay, I'll drink it. Why should I do things according to his wishes? I can do whatever I want. I don't want to be tied down by others. Higashio Motetsu's face immediately brightened up. He smiled and praised, that's right. Come, this 10-year-old new Hong is very pure. Try it. Encouraged, Chu Qingyan took the wine glass. Her nose could already smell the mellow fragrance of the wine. She was a little greedy. She threw Xiao Su's exhortations to the back of her mind and raised her head to gulp it down. Not bad. Higashio Motetsu filled her cup again and reminded her, don't drink too fast. You have to taste it slowly. Only then did Chu Qingyan stop gulping down the wine and imitated him to drink it mouthful by mouthful. At first, I thought that wine was something that you men usually drink to liven things up. It's actually quite hard to swallow, but after drinking a few cups, I slowly got the feeling. Chu Qingyan's face was slightly red as she said with a smile. She even licked the wine stains at the corner of her mouth from time to time. Higashio Motetsu's gaze couldn't help but follow her actions and fall on her full, dark red lips. Her nimble tongue lightly licked, as if a cat's claw was gently scratching his heart. His eyes darkened and he moved his gaze away without leaving a trace. Then, he found something to talk about and asked, why are you unhappy today? At this time, Chu Qingyan was already a little drunk. Hearing this, it was as if she had found a tree hole to vent her grievances. She snorted and said, last night, His Highness scolded me. Why? Higashio Motetsu cast aside the messy thoughts in his mind and asked seriously and strangely. I don't know either. If I knew, I wouldn't be so troubled. Chu Qingyan supported her chin with one hand, her expression extremely conflicted. Higashio Motetsu felt that the little girl who drank wine was much more honest than when she was sober. His eyes slightly curved, and a faint light flashed in his phoenix eyes. There was an element of seduction. He scolded you, so don't pay attention to him. His temper is so bad, you can just play with me in the future. Chu Qingyan heard this and glared at him. His Highness' temper isn't bad. He just doesn't like to talk. He's very good to me. If you say bad things about him, I won't look for you to play in the future. Then why are you telling me this? Higashio Motetsu coldly snorted, and his face immediately darkened. Chu Qingyan felt that she had said something wrong. She reached out and patted the back of his hand, comforting him, don't be angry. Don't take what I said seriously. I'm just feeling very sad right now. After Higashio Motetsu spoke, he regretted arguing with the little girl. When he saw her comforting him like she was coaxing a child, he felt even more embarrassed. He coughed and caught the words in her words and asked, what are you sad about? These words seemed to poke at Chu Qingyan's heart. She withdrew her hand, her expression blank and sad. Previously, when I was in Big Ice Cube's study, I heard him say that he would treat me like a younger sister. My heart felt very sad, but I don't know why I feel sad. Dongting, do you know? She was like a lost deer that had seen the only lighthouse, her eyes full of hope. But Higashio Motetsu felt that the light in those beautiful eyes was very dazzling. Although the little girl spoke very vaguely, he knew the reason behind it. He lowered his head, stirring the thick soup in the bowl, and asked in a flat tone, then what do you want Xiao Su to treat you as so that you won't feel sad? Chu Qingyan's expression was confused when she heard this. I don't know. Higashio Motetsu raised his hand and gently knocked on her forehead. If you don't know, then don't think about it. You're stupid enough. If you continue to think about it, it'll be even more hurtful. Chu Qingyan touched her head and said weakly, but last night, my father asked me when I would have a child with Big Ice Cube. I didn't know how to answer. When I thought of having a child with Big Ice Cube, I felt inexplicably happy. But when I thought of him treating me like a younger sister, I felt sad. Dongting, tell me, what's wrong with me? Because Yen Luo and the others were not by her side, and Xining was still young, she felt that she had no one to talk to. At this time, she could only ask him for help. In the face of Chu Qingyan's sincere inquiry, Higashio Motetsu felt a little irritated. The answer was obvious. The little girl in front of him had her first awakening of love. She liked the cold stone Xiaosu. This answer made him very unhappy. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Chu Qingyan, who was blushing. He suddenly had an idea. He couldn't let the little girl fall in love with Xiaosu. The Sichuan royal family was fighting fiercely, both openly and covertly. How could Xiaosu give her happiness? He couldn't watch her fall into the fire pit. Qingyan, I know the reason. What? Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up slightly. Because you only have Xiaosu by your side for so many years. It's like a toy that has been occupied for a long time. If one day, someone wants to take away your toy, you'll feel sad and reluctant. So the answer is very simple. You don't like this toy very much. It's just that you're used to his company and don't allow others to covet it. The same principle applies to Xiaosu. If one day, someone takes your place, he'll get used to it and treat her as well as he treats you. Do you understand? Chapter 683. Higashio Motetsu's words caused Chu Qingyan to become completely silent. Right now, her brain seemed to be filled with paste and it was hard for her to think. She tried hard to digest his words, but her brain was stuck. Her eyes were slightly red as she pursed her lips. When she completely understood the meaning of his words, Chu Qingyan suddenly stood up. Her hands were on the table as she glared fiercely at the person in front of her. I don't believe it. Her reaction was within his expectations, but it caused small flames to appear in his eyes. He took a deep breath and then leaned against the table. His posture was very lazy as a faint mocking expression floated onto his face. You think I'm lying to you? Little Yatu, don't be silly. People who walk in the center of power, do you think they have feelings? They only have benefits in their eyes. Talking about feelings with them, it's a fool's dream. You're speaking nonsense. Chu Qingyan's eyes were red. If what you say is true, why is the big ice cube so good to me? Pity floated into Higashio Motetsu's eyes. That is because you were betrothed to him by retired emperor. At the time, he was in the limelight and many important officials wanted to have a marriage alliance with him. Sichuan emperor had already detected this and wanted to destroy his power. And your appearance coincidentally helped Xiaosu divert Sichuan emperor's attention away from him. Because a Wang Fei with a weak foundation is enough to keep him in check and make him unable to take advantage of her. So he is good to you, but it is just to deceive others. Besides, for a person who has been boring his whole life, to suddenly have such a fun pet that is wholeheartedly devoted to him, any normal person would have the desire to tease it. Chu Qingyan shook her head. But why did what he said sound so reasonable? If there is a day when he doesn't need you, you will be abandoned by him. Although these words were cruel, Higashio Motetsu ignored the compassion in his heart. He looked into her eyes and said word by word. Chu Qingyan stood rooted to the ground as she stared blankly at him. When she finally understood what he was saying, she slowly gripped her sleeves and pleaded, Dongting, don't say any more. Higashio Motetsu nodded slightly and did not continue. He knew that this was enough. Let's eat. Chu Qingyan sat down again as if nothing had happened. She picked up her chopsticks and tasted every dish carefully. Higashio Motetsu didn't react to her sudden change in behavior. He frowned slightly as he looked at the person in front of him who was eating without a care in the world. He suddenly couldn't figure out what she was thinking at the moment. Little girl, are you all right now? After hesitating for a moment, he still asked. Very good, I'm just very hungry. She took a bite of the chicken wing and felt that it tasted pretty good. She even recommended the person in front of her to try it. Higashio Motetsu was half convinced and half doubtful. But seeing that her face was fine and she didn't mention Xiao Su again, it seemed like she had heard it and was just turning her grief and anger into appetite. So he didn't think about it anymore and accompanied her to eat. Dong Ting, this wine is really good. Call another pot. Anyway, the bill is hanging in our sleeves. It's a waste not to eat. Chu Qingyan laughed mischievously. Higashio Motetsu saw her drinking cup after cup and wanted to stop her. But seeing that she was in high spirits and drank so much, besides her face being slightly red and her eyes becoming brighter, she didn't look drunk. So he let her be. Maybe this little girl looked petite, but her alcohol tolerance wasn't bad. By the time the table was in a mess, the two of them had already drunk 2 pots of Nu Hong. But most of it went into Chu Qingyan's stomach. Dong Ting, it's getting late. We have to go back. Chu Qingyan stood up and spoke clearly to the person in front of her. Higashio Motetsu looked at the sky. Unknowingly, the moon was already high up in the sky. He curved his lips. I didn't think that time would pass so quickly. I'll send you back. No need, I'm not a child. Moreover, Xining and Jean Xian are outside. You should go back and rest early. We still have a fierce battle to fight tomorrow. Chu Qingyan said in a relaxed and mischievous tone. This fierce battle should be referring to the Hibiscus Pavilion sales tomorrow. Hearing her say, we, Higashio Motetsu's depressed mood was swept away. Alright, be careful on the road. The group separated at the entrance of the restaurant. Hearing that their master drank a lot of wine tonight, Xining and Jean Xian looked at each other with worry. Because His Highness had already instructed them, but they didn't expect that their master would drink so much. When they went back, they might be punished by His Highness. Chu Qingyan felt that the 2 people beside her were very depressed. She couldn't help but glance at them. Why do the 2 of you look so worried? Master, His Highness said that you can't drink. Xining said in a muffled voice. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but smile. Don't worry, I'm not drunk. Is that so? Master, you're going in the wrong direction again. Xining and Jean Xian finally believed that in this world, there was a kind of person who could talk seriously when drunk. The group of people returned to the bank. Chu Qingyan walked straight to Xiao Su's courtyard. Master, you're going in the wrong direction. This is your courtyard. Xining quickly grabbed her hand and pointed to the right. Chu Qingyan smiled and pushed her hand away. Xining, I won't go back to my room first. I need to find the big ice cube for something. But you drank, you can't hide it from His Highness. If there's anything, we can go tomorrow, okay? Xining remembered how seriously His Highness had told them about the ban on alcohol. Now that she thought about it, she panicked. If her master went and His Highness punished her, wouldn't her master be punished? Her heart was with her master, so she couldn't allow that to happen. But her master in front of her had already made up her mind. Xining, what are you afraid of? Even if the big ice cube is angry, he can't do anything to me. You and Jean Xian should go back. Don't follow me, otherwise I'll get angry. The threatened Xining could only watch as her master abandoned her and Jean Xian and walked into the abyss without any hesitation. Master, take care. Xining will be here praying for you. Jean Xian looked at her strange face and couldn't help shaking his head. At this time, Chu Qingyan left Xining and Jean Xian and the bright smile on her face was swallowed by the night. She expressionlessly walked towards Xiao Su's courtyard. She had suppressed her anger for the entire night. She was full of questions and wanted to find him and ask him clearly. She clearly knew that this was not the right time to question him, but after drinking, her actions were out of her control. She only had one thought in her mind. Go ask him clearly. When she stepped into the courtyard, there was a person sitting in the courtyard, who seemed to be admiring the moon. Chu Qingyan's heart became even angrier. She was jumping around by herself, but he still had the leisure to admire the moon. Xiao Su heard the noise and looked up. He saw the person standing under the moon, the little fellow who looked like she wanted to bite him. Chapter 684. He had waited for her all night, but she didn't come back. In the past, she would always tell him where she went, but now she had learned to make her own decisions. Xiao Su's heart was filled with anger. But when she stood there and looked at him with all her attention, Xiao Su felt that the little flame was extinguished by her. He held his forehead. Since when did he lose control of his emotions? Sometimes, his emotions would be affected by the little fellow. Qing Yan, what are you standing there for? Come here. Seeing her staring at him, Xiao Su couldn't help but speak up. They hadn't seen each other for an entire day and he wanted to talk to her properly. Hearing this, Chu Qingyan's heart was filled with emotions. She crossed her arms and said in a huff, "Why do you have to tell me to come over and tell me to go over?" He didn't think that the little fellow would argue with him over such a small matter. Maybe she was still angry with him over what happened last night, so Xiao Su thought that there was no need to argue with her over such a small matter. So he obeyed her words and stood up. But when he was about to walk towards her. "Wait, don't move." Chu Qingyan suddenly raised her hand to stop him. Xiao Su was puzzled, but he still stopped and looked at her calmly. He heard her take a deep breath and then said in a muffled voice, "I'll go over." Although he didn't know why she changed her mind, he felt that this little fellow was quite cute. While he was distracted, the person not far away had already walked in front of him. "Tonight you," before he could ask, the other party had already cut him off. "Why are you so fierce to me?" She raised her head and looked at him with bright eyes filled with grievance. "When have I ever been fierce to you?" Xiao Su was a little stunned by her question, especially when he saw her eyes. His tone couldn't help but soften. Chu Qingyan's eyes widened. This person wouldn't go back on his words, right? She couldn't help but stomp her feet in anger. "Last night. In your room, you were fierce to me." Xiao Su sighed. Sure enough, she was still brooding over what happened last night. "My tone last night was wrong. I apologize, please don't take it to heart." Sensing her unhappiness, Xiao Su bent down and said in a serious tone. Who would have thought that the dignified prince, the brave and invincible king of England in the hearts of the people, would stand in the corner of a small town in Jiangnan on this cool night and sincerely apologize to a little girl? Perhaps there was nothing wrong with his tone, but Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and let him off for now. However, she still wanted to know the reason. "I accept your apology, but I want to know why you scolded me. I'm the victim, and I have the right to know the truth." Faced with this little fellow who refused to let go, Xiao Su suddenly felt a little headache. He couldn't tell her that it was because she didn't tell him the truth that she let Higashio Motetsu join the team. Xiao Su's silence completely angered Chu Qingyan. She bit her lip and accused, "You bad person. When you want to be good to me, you're good to me, but when you want to be fierce to me, you're fierce to me. What do you take me for? Is it like what others say? I'm just your pet. When you're happy, you smooth my fur, and when you're not happy, you throw me aside." "Who said that?" Xiao Su's voice suddenly became cold and harsh. Just now there were a few crickets chirping happily, but now the courtyard was dead silent. Chu Qingyan seemed to be frightened by his words. She stared blankly for a moment, then sniffled and her expression became even sadder. "Look, you're fierce to me again." Xiao Su saw her revealing a weak and delicate expression. The anger that was aroused just now had nowhere to vent, but in the end, it was turned into pity by her. Looking at the little fellow who was standing 3 steps away from him, Xiao Su couldn't help but want to pull her into his arms. "I'm not fierce to you. I'm just angry that someone is gossiping in your ear and distorting the truth." His voice became even softer, for fear of scaring her. Unfortunately, his words were clumsy, completely unlike the cold and serious king of a region. Chu Qingyan reluctantly accepted his explanation. At this time, she felt that the distance between the two of them was a little far, so she couldn't help but walk a few steps. At this time, a gust of night wind blew. Xiao Su faintly smelled the smell of alcohol in the air. When the person in front of him approached, the the smell of alcohol became stronger and stronger. Xiao Su instantly frowned. Just now, because he was standing in the wind was blowing towards the little fellow, so he didn't smell it. Now the wind blew in the opposite direction again, so he noticed. No wonder the little fellow was a little strange tonight, it was because she drank wine. But when he thought of the scene when the little fellow was drunk last time, he immediately looked at her. Seeing that her clothes were neatly on her body, he was relieved. And just at this moment, the little fellow had already come over. She raised her head, revealing her sparkling eyes, and said seriously. Big Ice Block, are you angry because I reconciled with Dongting? Xiao Su nodded and shook his head. Without waiting for him to answer, Chu Qingyan continued, I just thought about it. Last night, when you asked me if I was hiding something from you, I just remembered. In fact, I didn't mean to not tell you, but I thought you were asking about the bank. So now you're ready to tell me. Although Xiao Su felt that it was a disgrace to get information from the little fellow when she was drunk, he still couldn't help but ask. Chu Qingyan nodded without hesitation, and then said in an apologetic tone, Big Ice Block, I know that because of the Moon Palace behind Dongting, you and him are opposing each other, but so many years have passed and you two are at peace. And Dongting is the first friend I made here. He has no malice towards me, and I don't want to lose him as a friend. At the end, her voice became softer and softer, and her head slowly lowered, as if she was afraid of being denied by him. You only see him as a friend? She nodded, he's like a big brother, and has helped me a lot. Back then, when I was looking for herbs, he was the one who brought me to the Blue Manor. When you were trapped, he was also the one who told me, so I believe that he won't use me again. So Big Ice Block, I don't want to lose him as a friend. At this point, she raised her head, her eyes filled with sincerity, like a child who had taken a fancy to a toy, and wanted it but was afraid of being scolded. Her answer had already made the remaining gloominess in his heart disappear. Now that she was asking so seriously, how could he bear to refuse? He stroked her head, and said with a smile in his eyes, as long as he doesn't have any ideas about you. And she nodded happily, and threw herself into his arms. I knew Big Ice Block was the best. Is that so? Then who was the one who pointed at my nose and accused me of a crime? Xiao Su smiled. Was there? Who was it? She suddenly had amnesia. Xiao Su shook his head and couldn't help laughing. The two of them hugged quietly for a moment, and Xiao Su heard a hesitant and determined voice in his arms. Big Ice Block, I have a question that has been in my heart for a long time, can you answer it honestly? Chapter 685. Chu Qingyan's sudden question made Xiao Su slightly startled. Her careful tone made him feel a faint sense of pity. He patted her shoulder lightly and said softly, Okay, ask away. After saying that, he quietly waited for her question. But after waiting for a while, he didn't hear her voice. He couldn't help but lower his head to see if she was asleep. But just as he leaned over, the person in his arms suddenly pushed his body away and took a step back. Big Ice Cube, you should rest early. After saying that, she turned around to run away. But before she could take the first step, her wrist was grabbed. As if he was afraid of hurting her, he didn't hold it too tightly, but it wasn't easy for her to break free. Chu Qingyan lowered her head, not daring to look back at him. Why are you running? The person behind her seemed to think that her actions were very interesting and asked in a playful tone. I'm not running, I just want to go back to sleep. She replied softly, but she didn't dare to let him see the guilt in her eyes. Is that so? Xiao Su paused for a moment, then said again, seeing that you're full of energy and don't look tired, why don't you wait until we're done discussing the question you wanted to ask before going back to rest? She found it hard to ask that question. When she opened her mouth just now, she already regretted it. She was still afraid that if she didn't directly avoid the answer, the result would be the same as what she had guessed. You're not going to ask? Then I have a question to ask you. His tone was calm and didn't seem out of place. However, the moment he finished speaking, Chu Qingyan turned around abruptly. There was a voice in her heart that kept encouraging her. If she missed this opportunity, there would not be another one. She had to make good use of this opportunity and be decisive. She slowly raised her head and looked at him with a determined gaze. Big Ice Cube, let me ask you. She didn't ask when he asked her to, but when he wanted to ask her, she stole his words. Xiao Su kind of understood why Ling Feng said that women were the most difficult animals to understand in the world. Tonight's little fellow was drunk and started to be willful. However, he wasn't in a hurry, so he nodded indifferently. Chu Qingyan took a deep breath and encouraged herself in her heart before saying, Big Ice Cube, in your eyes, do you see me as your younger sister? She curled her fingers tightly and closed her eyes, holding her breath as she waited for his answer. This question was somewhat out of his expectations. He didn't know why she would ask this question, but his gaze fell on the person in front of him. She was waiting so seriously for his answer, and his hand was still holding her wrist. He could clearly feel her entire body tensing up. Xiao Su frowned slightly. Why do you ask? Because I heard your answer in the study. She sounded disappointed. However, he could no longer remember this matter. But looking at her expression, it didn't seem like she was joking. Thus, he carefully searched through his memories. Soon, he found something that matched up. Only then did he remember the cause. It was in the afternoon. After Turan finished his report, he suddenly smiled and said, Master, some people say that you treat the little princess as if you are raising a doll and spoiling her too much. Others say that you take care of the little princess as your younger sister. This subordinate feels that both of these statements are quite correct. Is that so? Xiao Su was a bit surprised that his subordinate would change the topic to Qingyan. Turan couldn't help but ask curiously, then what does Master think of the little princess? Xiao Su stopped and seriously thought about this question. More spoiling than raising a doll, more intimate than a younger sister. But if he had to accurately describe it, he was a bit troubled. More like a younger sister. He thought for a long time before finally giving this answer. Actually, in his heart, there seemed to be another answer, but he couldn't see it clearly. But now he had already seen the reason. It was just that he didn't think that his conversation with Turan would be heard by her. He suddenly smiled. Chu Qingyan didn't wait for his answer and had already opened her eyes. But she just happened to meet his smiling eyes. She was suddenly a bit unhappy. She was so nervous, but he was laughing at her. So she angrily turned and wanted to leave, but how could he let go of her hand so easily? Xiao Su used a bit of force to pull her in front of him. He didn't directly answer her question, but leaned over to tease her. Then what do you think you are in my eyes? How could she know? She felt that he was teasing her. She wanted to leave but couldn't. She felt unhappy and simply didn't look at him. Xiao Su saw that she was about to explode. He hooked his lips and lowered his head to whisper in her ear. He softly smiled and said, I've never treated you as a younger sister, and I've never treated you as a pet. His deep voice, with his unique magnificence, made Chu Qingyan instantly fall into his soft laughter and couldn't recover for a long time. Really? She softly murmured. Silly girl, when have I ever lied to you? He couldn't help but raise his hand to caress her head. His expression carried a doting affection that even he himself didn't realize. As soon as he finished speaking, his hand was slapped away by her. While he was surprised, he heard her accuse him. You lied to me last time. You said that you would follow me after I left. Actually, you wanted to send me far away and then face those black hands yourself. Xiao Su was still a little confused, but after a while, he realized that she was talking about the revenge they had suffered when they went to the Fuli mountain range 4 years ago. He didn't think that the little fellow would bring up old scores, and it was even so long ago. He thought that the little fellow might really be drunk, which was why she couldn't differentiate between the present and the past. But he also understood that the incident back then had left a deep impact on the little fellow, otherwise she wouldn't have remembered it so clearly until now. He held her shoulders and gently pressed her against his chest, comforting her. I won't lie to you again in the future. Since you said it so sincerely, then I'll be merciful and believe you this time. Chu Qingyan whined in his arms. Xiaosu felt that when she drank, as long as she didn't go overboard like last time, she was quite cute. Just as he was chuckling, the person in his arms began to change her expression again. Oh right, you still haven't answered me. What do you take me for? Don't beat around the bush, don't change the topic. If you dare to lie to me, do you believe that I won't bite you? Chu Qingyan said while revealing her white teeth, trying to create a gloomy atmosphere. Unfortunately, it had the opposite effect. Xiaosu couldn't help but laugh at her. Hearing his uncontrollable laughter, Chu Qingyan's face immediately darkened. You can't bully me like this. She stomped her feet, wanting to push him away again. Unfortunately, he had learned his lesson and his arms tightened, firmly holding her in his arms. He gave a low laugh. In this kind of night, it was especially alluring. Chu Qingyan was bewitched. Indeed, being drunk made people brave. At this time, a bewitching voice sounded in her ears. You want to know the answer? I do, she softly hummed. How much do you want? I really, really want. Chapter 686. If it was any other day, Chu Qingyan would have long realized that the other party was just teasing her. But at this moment, she couldn't help but sink into this voice. Her entire heart and eyes could only put him alone. Her black eyes seemed to be filled with a sea of stars, but at this moment, it was as if only she could wander around in them. Xiaosu slightly hooked his lips and leaned close to her ear. A trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. First answer a question of mine, then I'll tell you the answer you want. She vaguely felt that there was something wrong with these words, but Chu Qingyan's mind was already unable to wrap itself around it. In a daze, she had already nodded in agreement. Tell me, at that time in the inn, did Yang Yuhuan use medicine on me? The answer was within his expectations, but he still had the answer he wanted. This little fellow was so obedient after drinking wine, and would answer all his questions. This was a rare opportunity. Although it was very ungentlemanly, but it was only in this kind of situation that she would confess to him. He placed his hands on her shoulders and looked at her at the same level. Then he leaned closer to her and asked in a neither fast nor slow manner. Why did you hide it from me? It seemed like he had asked too many questions. But this question, she knew the answer. Because I don't want you to know that after you inhaled that powder, you became very strange. Her answer caused the light in his eyes to condense in an instant, and there was a sudden flash of light. He leaned forward slightly, and his tone carried a meaning that could not be ignored. What kind of strange method? Although Chu Qingyan's rationality was about to dissipate, she could still hear the coaxing in his words, and how embarrassing the words that were about to come out of his mouth were. At the last moment, she bit her lower lip and averted her gaze, not daring to look at him directly. I don't know. Her voice was almost like a mosquito. You don't know, or you don't want to say. His nose was filled with the fragrance of the wine and the young girl's body. When mixed together, it made people inadvertently intoxicated. Xiaosu felt that he was a little abnormal tonight. His style of doing things was not like his usual, but he didn't want to delve into it. The current him only wanted to do things according to his heart. When Chu Qingyan heard this, she lowered her head like a frightened rabbit. Her blushing face and ears fell into his eyes. If it was any other time, he would have already let her go and stopped teasing her. But tonight, she made him unable to stop himself. You don't have to answer this question. I'll ask you another one. How could Big Ice Cube's voice be so pleasant to the ears? Her face was burning. He reached out and hooked her chin, slowly lifting it up so that she wouldn't be immersed in her own world like an ostrich. Did she really think that no one could see her just because she was buried in the sand? When their gazes met again, she could no longer avoid his gaze. Let me ask you, were you the person that night? His gaze was locked on her face, not missing any change in her expression. What about that night? She sounded confused, not knowing what he meant. She looked like she really didn't understand. Xiaosu thought for a bit and an unfathomable expression flashed across his face. Then he leaned over and whispered a few words in her ear. At first, she still had a confused look on her face. She only felt that he was close to her, and that cool ink fragrance was surging in her nose, giving her a feeling that made her sink into it. But after hearing what he said clearly, her face turned completely red. You, she already couldn't speak, but the person in front of her didn't have any intention of letting her go. You remember now, N? His voice was like the new Hong she drank today. It was long and mellow, swallowing her rationality bit by bit. As for the after effects of the wine in her body, it was suddenly aroused. She felt like her thoughts were about to explode. You still don't remember? Do you need me to remind you again? Xiaosu saw that the person in front of him had her head lowered and didn't move at all, but her ears were already red to her neck. Although he said that, he already gave up the idea of asking more. The moment he received the secret letter, he already knew that the images that appeared in his mind recently weren't illusions, but actually happened to him. And when he was close to the little fellow tonight, the familiar feeling made him confirm who the person that appeared by his side that night was. Since he already knew the answer, there was no need to tease her. Moreover, she was drunk right now, so if there was anything, he could wait until she sobered up tomorrow to properly talk to her. So Xiaosu straightened up, intending to pull away from her. After all, the distance between the two of them was too ambiguous. But at this moment, the person in front of him suddenly raised her head. A pair of clear eyes were especially bright in the night, so bright that it was a little dazzling. When he met her gaze, Xiaosu suddenly forgot what he was going to do next. And in the moment he was absent-minded, his back was already wrapped by a pair of hands, and his back suddenly tensed up. If her hands were obedient, then it wouldn't matter, but the most important thing was that her hands were very disobediently moving around his back. Qin Yan, what are you doing? As he said that, he had already raised his hand to take her hands down. But just as he was about to grab her hand, she suddenly moved closer. Her young, soft body was tightly pressed against his body. Xiaosu's hand loosened, and with a slight struggle, she regained her freedom. Her hands once again climbed up his shoulders, and because he was distracted, she easily got close to his chest. She lightly tiptoed and pressed her lips against his ear. All the actions were done in a single breath, in the blink of an eye. Before Xiaosu could react, he heard her gently blowing at him, and said word by word, "Don't you know what I'm doing?" Her words seemed to be going against him. He lowered his head slightly, and saw her smiling and sly eyes, with a myriad of amorous feelings blooming. His throat tightened, and he forced himself to ignore the feeling on his body, and prepared to stop her. "You're drunk, be good, go back and rest." Xiaosu's hands had just landed on her shoulders, but she hugged him even tighter. "Big ice cube, don't you want to know if the person that night was me? There's a very simple way to prove it, don't you want to try it?" The wine-red color stained her cheeks little by little, like the rosy clouds in the evening sky, so beautiful that one couldn't help but stop to admire it. His pupils shrank slightly, and he was unknowingly mesmerized by her coquettish voice. "What method?" She blinked. If she did this on a normal day, it would make people feel that she was naughty and cute, but at this time, it gave people a feeling of being extremely charming. When the ancients solved a case, they liked to reenact the case. Xiaosu remained calm and waited for her to continue. "Then, let's reenact that night." Her hands wrapped around his neck, and with a slight force, he was caught off guard and leaned forward, and she tiptoed again, getting closer. Chapter 687. At this moment, it was already close to the middle of the moon. The cool breeze blew gently, causing the leaves to rustle on the branches. But the two people in the courtyard seemed to have already isolated themselves from the outside world. They only had each other in their eyes. Chu Qingyan closed her eyes and placed her hands on his shoulders. She stood on her tiptoes and looked into his eyes until her appearance appeared in his eyes. She raised her eyes and smiled, then prepared to close her eyes. But at this moment, Xiaosu suddenly moved his eyebrows, only to realize that the little fellow had already closed in on him. He did not forget that she was drunk, and a helpless yet amused feeling welled up in his heart. This time and the last time, the little fellow would become abnormal whenever she drank. It seemed like he really could not let her touch alcohol in the future. He pulled her arm and stopped her, then straightened his body, not letting her come closer. Seeing that he was about to succeed, he suddenly got stuck. Chu Qingyan glared at his hand in displeasure and rebuked, "Didn't you want to know? Why are you stopping me?" It was impossible to reason with a drunk person. But at this moment, her eyes were shining and she looked very energetic. It was impossible to tell that she was drunk. At this moment, he had nothing to do, so he accompanied her here to pass the time. "I already know the answer, there's no need to verify it." He did not forget that the two of them had almost gotten into a fight, so he took a step back, wanting to put some distance between the two of them. "You know what the answer is? Tell me." Chu Qingyan was dissatisfied with his departure. She tugged on his clothes and took another step forward. Xiaosu looked at the person who was unwilling to give up and felt a headache. He should not have teased her just now. Now, he felt that it would be difficult to resolve the situation. "Little fellow, if you can remember what you did tonight, I don't mind you doing whatever you want." He looked straight at her and lowered his voice with a hint of provocation. Chu Qingyan was stunned when she heard this. When she reacted, she tilted her head and asked in confusion, "You mean, as long as I can remember tomorrow, you will be mine tonight, right?" Xiaosu was amused by her words. "It's a pity that your memory can only stop at tonight." Last time, he had already experienced her drunken prowess. With the previous example, he felt that it was better not to invite trouble onto himself. Otherwise, he would be the one who would suffer later. Therefore, he took another step back to maintain a safe distance between the two of them. Unfortunately, drunk people don't play by the rules. When he took the last step back to the tree trunk, the person in front of him once again climbed onto his back when he wasn't paying attention. She raised her head. Her rosy cheeks were now covered by the faint moonlight. Tiny fragments of light gathered in her eyes. Xiaosu lowered his eyebrows slightly, which happened to fall into her eyes. The sound waves from his coquettish eyes were enough to make one's heart race. He felt an indescribable emotion surging through his body. He pursed his lips and wanted to look away. Unfortunately, the direction was wrong. The girl was wearing men's clothing. Although it covered all the characteristics of a woman, the moment she got close to him, the girl's graceful figure was revealed. The undulating curves, the soft waist, the light clothes, and the warm skin. The air between the two of them suddenly became thin. When Xiaosu wanted to raise his hand to press her down again, Chu Qingyan, who had suffered defeat once, was already on guard. Her hand slid down from his shoulder nimbly, groping inch by inch until she reached his wrist. Then, she held his hand and wrapped it around her waist. This unforeseen event made Xiaosu's thoughts and Su Yi's stagnation. And Chu Qingyan took advantage of the moment when he wasn't paying attention and smiled triumphantly. Then, she repeated what she hadn't done just now. "Get closer. In 5 years, from the age of 10 to 15, from your chest to your shoulders, I've grown taller. Get closer. I'll try my best to keep up with your pace. I'm afraid that one day, when I suddenly look up, you've already left me far behind. Get a little closer. Very good, almost there. I don't know what the veil between the two of us is. But at this moment, please allow me to get closer to you. Before dizziness sets in, I still have time for you in my eyes." When the girl's fragrance got closer, Xiaosu's eyes were only left with her appearance. Bright, Charming, charming, bright, that kind of vivid and strong image was infinitely magnified in front of him. In the end, Xiaosu didn't resist. The hand on her waist exerted a little force and pulled her softness into his embrace. When he saw his heart clearly, Xiaosu didn't want to wrong himself anymore. He also couldn't bear to reject the person in front of him. This was the person he held at the apex of his heart. He closed his eyes slightly and leaned down. Their breaths were close and their breaths blended together. They were already indistinguishable. A softness brushed past his chin and slid to his ear. Then, it fell. He was slightly stunned. When he opened his eyes, a figure pressed against him and then softly slid to the ground. He quickly pulled her into his embrace. When he saw her appearance at this time, Xiaosu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The little fellow had actually fallen asleep at this time. The night wind was cool, blowing away the ambiguous warmth between the two. Xiaosu felt that this little fellow always had the skill of tormenting people in the end and then leaving by herself. But it also made people unable to scold her. At this time, he could only admit that he was unlucky. He looked at the person sleeping soundly in his arms. In the end, he could only shake his head and laugh. He picked her up by the waist. Then, he turned and sent her to her courtyard. There was no obstruction all the way to the courtyard. Your Highness, Xining saw the person coming from afar and hurriedly bowed. When she got up, she saw the person lying in His Highness's arms. She exclaimed, Your Highness, Master is drunk and asleep. Open the door. Afraid of waking up the little fellow, Xiaosu lowered his voice. Yes. Xining immediately turned and opened the door. When His Highness entered, she blinked and closed the door. Why didn't you follow in to serve Master? A voice suddenly came from behind. Xining was startled. She turned and saw Jin Xian leaning against a stone pillar with a sword. She said unhappily, At this time, Master doesn't need to be served, but Your Highness, do you understand? You say it as if you know a lot. Jin Xian glanced at her and then walked away alone. Xining bared her fangs and brandished her claws at his back. He always had a deadpan expression. Humph, he didn't even give me a good look when I came to Jiangnan. No, why do I have to look at his expression? Xining stomped her feet and then ran to the kitchen to boil water. Master would definitely need water to wash her face later. After Xiaosu entered the door, he gently put the person in his arms on the bed and then pulled the quilt over her. His gaze inadvertently fell on her lips. Just now, just a little bit more, his eyes darkened and then he immediately looked away, intending to let her have a good rest. Suddenly, a hand tugged at his sleeve. Chapter 688. Xiaosu stopped in his tracks and turned around, only to see her little hand tugging on his sleeve. He thought the little fellow had sobered up, but when he saw her tightly knitted brows, he couldn't help but sigh helplessly. Don't go, it's uncomfortable. Chu Qingyan muttered unconsciously. Xiaosu walked back to the bed and sat down on the edge. He raised his hand to brush away the loose hair on her forehead and said in a pitiful tone, You know it's uncomfortable. Let's see if you dare to drink again next time. Her reply was a series of hums. Xiaosu felt that his IQ had dropped to the same level as the little fellow. Otherwise, why would he try to talk to a drunk person? But seeing her frown from time to time, he knew that she was feeling uncomfortable. Generally, the later the alcohol took effect, the more uncomfortable it would be afterward. He really wanted to teach her a lesson, but unfortunately, even if he was angry with her, she wouldn't know. Xiaosu shook his head and got up to pour her a cup of tea. Then, he helped her up from the bed and carefully fed her. She seemed to have felt the sweetness of the tea and reached out to hold the teacup and drank it while huffing and puffing. Her unconscious action made him put his hand in her palm. The moment their fingertips touched, Xiaosu's fingers trembled. In the end, he steadied his mind and held the teacup. Otherwise, with her current confused state, it wouldn't take long for the tea to spill all over her. After drinking the tea, she began to cling to him and didn't want to leave. Every time she drank, she would cling to him tightly. Xiao Su had experienced it firsthand. But he suddenly remembered the distance before she came home tonight, and his eyes couldn't help but narrow. "Little fellow, why did you go drinking tonight?" He knew that the little fellow wouldn't go drinking for no reason, and he knew that Higashio Motetsu was already in Jiangnan. This feeling made him very uncomfortable. He didn't expect her to answer, but unexpectedly, the little fellow obediently replied, "It was Xiuli who said she was going to treat me, but she left halfway. Dongting told me that the wine was very good and wanted me to try it." "So you listened to him and drank it?" Xiao Su lowered his voice. Chu Qingyan nodded without realizing it. She then rubbed herself against him and complained, "Although it's delicious, I feel very uncomfortable after drinking it." "Will you still drink it in the future?" No, I'll get angry if I drink big ice cubes." She shook her head like a rattle drum, refusing. Hearing this, Xiao Su didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was drunk and still knew how to be afraid. This made Su Yi's gloomy mood dissipate a lot. The two of them rarely had time to be alone and quietly together like this. Xiao Su let her be and didn't intend to ask any more questions. Because even if he asked, she wouldn't remember tomorrow. Perhaps Chu Qingyan couldn't stand the silence between the two, so she started to get restless again. "Big Ice Cube, I want to hear you sing." She reached out and hugged his arm. She closed her eyes and said coquettishly, "Singing?" The corner of Xiao Su's eyes twitched. The little girl was really being willful again. He was silent for a moment. Maybe if he didn't speak, the little girl wouldn't disturb him. Unfortunately, this was only his thought. The person in his arms usually didn't speak. Once she opened her mouth, there would be results. "Rub rub, I want to listen to your song, I want it, I want it." Chu Qingyan was almost twisting into a rope in his arms. Xiao Su's body was also ignited by her sudden action. He reached out and pressed her shoulder, stopping her from unconsciously igniting his body. However, she still didn't give up. She was like a child who couldn't get her candy, throwing a tantrum regardless of the consequences. He took a deep breath. Facing someone who didn't give up, he could only change the topic like last time. "I'll talk to you." He took a step back and compromised. Anyway, this wasn't the first time he compromised. Moreover, the little girl was right. There was no such thing as embarrassing. "I don't want to talk to you." Chu Qingyan snorted coldly, indicating that she didn't want to talk to him. Xiao Su eased the restlessness in his body. He opened his eyes and said in a playful tone, "If that's the case, then I'll leave." Just as he moved his arm, she hugged him tightly again. She pouted and said against her heart, "Then I'll force myself to listen to you." "Hurry up and say it." Xiao Su smiled faintly. He couldn't help but reach out and pinch her nose until she was gasping for air. Then, he patted her head and stroked her back, gently comforting her. Perhaps she was very satisfied with his service. Chu Qingyan didn't urge him to be quiet. She seemed to be quietly enjoying this time. The quiet night gradually passed as the two of them interacted with each other warmly. At this moment, Xiao Su slowly opened his mouth. "Ayan, your father asked me the day before yesterday when he would take you as his wife. At that time, I was already stunned and didn't know how to answer." He couldn't help but smile, as if he was mocking himself. "Have you been asked the same thing by him before?" After speaking for a while, he didn't see her reply. He turned his head slightly and saw that she was already peacefully asleep. She must have fallen asleep without waiting for him to speak. Xiao Su lifted the quilt from the bed and covered her with it. Although it was already late at night, he couldn't let go of the warmth in his arms, so he didn't immediately get up. He felt that he had a lot of things to say in his heart tonight. Thus, he continued. "It's not that I haven't considered your future. I've always wanted to keep you by my side, but no one has ever told me how to keep someone by my side. Father Emperor and Mother Empress seem to have been by my side since I was young, but I didn't feel their company in the first 20 years of my life. Huo Ling and Jin Ling have always been by my side, but I never thought of having them stay by my side for a long time. Because people will grow old, I don't want them to live in the days of fighting and killing. It seems like there are many people by my side, but if you really count, there are only a few. And you, his gaze was fixed on the person under him. His eyes were filled with the darkness of the night, so thick that it couldn't be dissolved. I never thought that there would be a day when you would leave. But, he smiled, you are a girl. You have a father and mother who love you. You have a happy youth. There is no need to live a life of fear with me, always on guard against the schemes of your parents and brothers. As if she felt the sadness in his words, Chu Qingyan uneasily moved her body and hugged his arm even tighter. However, I'm more and more reluctant to let go of you. If it wasn't for Feng Yi's reminder and your father's question, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to see where you are in my heart. You're not a pet that can come and go at my beck and call, and you're definitely not a little sister. His voice gradually became gentle and his eyes were filled with a deep affection that couldn't be dissolved. I finally understand what it means to pamper someone more than raising a doll, to be closer than a little sister. Chapter 689. I dote on you more than raising a doll. I'm more intimate than raising a sister. These were Xiao Su's feelings for her. There was no need for him to express his feelings. These words were enough. This was the answer that Chu Qingyan wanted to hear. Unfortunately, she was deep in her dreams and did not hear her Big Ice Cube's rare long analysis of her heart, as well as his tender confession. If she knew, she would regret it for the rest of her life. Xiao Su looked down and saw that the person in his arms was smiling from time to time. It was as if she was dreaming of something fun. He couldn't help but want to laugh, but he suddenly remembered what Father Chu said that night. He was slightly dazed. Then he whispered to himself, Ian, you're already 15 years old. You're about to pass the age of majority. Passing the age of majority meant that one was an adult and could get married and have children. He fixed his gaze on the delicate face in front of him. Her brows were picturesque and made people want to dote on her. Sometimes she was as sly as a fox, sometimes she was as lazy as a cat. She was cute and kind, and hated evil. Although she looked delicate, she would always show her intelligent and strong side at critical moments. She was soft but not weak, innocent but not stupid. Such an exquisite little fellow had walked by his side for 5 years. And he wanted to be by her side for the rest of her life. He didn't want to miss the first girl who had given him warmth. Because of her, he had the idea of starting a family. In the past, when he was in the military camp, there were often soldiers who came to report that they wanted to take leave to go home and get married. Every time he saw the happy smile on their faces, he felt that this feeling was very far away from him. It was as if they were in 2 different worlds. Now, he felt that if that person was the little girl, there wouldn't be any obstacles for him. Home was a word that he hadn't heard in a long time. When he thought of this, his gaze landed on her body again. He lifted his finger and gently brushed her hair. Then he gently caressed her brow bone. Finally, his finger slowly traced her facial features along the bridge of her nose. It was as if he wanted to imprint her appearance deeply into his soul. Her soft and delicate skin was so delicate that he couldn't bear to pull his hand away. Little girl, I've already understood my feelings. What about you? Are you willing to spend the rest of your life with me? The person in deep sleep couldn't answer. But someone had already answered for her. It's okay. If you don't want to, I'll wait until you do. In his entire life, he had never forced or hoped for anything. He was so obsessed with this one thing. There was once an enemy who said that he was like an eagle, hovering in the air. He would not attack easily, but if he found a prey, he would definitely kill it in one strike. Xiao Su's eyes darkened. He slowly bent down and gently kissed the corner of her eye. Like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, he quickly stood up. Because he had already made up his mind, every step he took was very light. At that moment, the three little ones lying on the blanket under the wooden cabinet stared at Xiao Su with wide eyes, seemingly having sensed an intruder. Although they sensed no malice from Xiao Su, their snow-white fur stood on end and they were on high alert. Xiao Su had already sensed that there were a few more auras in the room. Because of the person in his arms, he didn't pay much attention to them. Being surrounded by them, he confessed in his heart. If not for the fact that they were beasts and couldn't speak, their ears and tongues would have already been gone. Xiao Su glanced at them indifferently. Little annoyance and the rest lowered their heads. Some people were born to be kings, just like the king of beasts. They exuded a sharp aura that made all living things not dare to breathe. Xiao Su's body had such a beastly aura. The cold murderous aura that settled on the battlefield was enough to make all living things submit. When the door was closed, the person lying on the bed turned over and muttered, "I'm willing. I want to be with Big Ice Cube forever." When Xiao Su left Chu Qingyan's room and was about to return to his own courtyard, a person stood at the end of the bluestone path. Son-in-law, come here." As soon as he heard the voice, he knew it was Father Chu. At this time, he was acting sneakily, as if he was doing something bad. Xiao Su knew that something had happened to him, so he quickly walked up to him. When he was in front of him, he was about to ask, but Father Chu pulled his arm and hid behind the rockery at the side. He wasn't used to being touched or approached by others, but at this time, he only frowned. When he reached the rockery, Father Chu had already let go of his hand. "Great old Master Chu, it's so late. What are you doing here?" After all, he was the little fellow's father. He couldn't let him wander outside and ignore him. Great old Master Chu glanced behind him. When he saw that there was no one, he sighed in relief. Then, he put on a serious face. "Son-in-law, I heard that Kai Kai was drunk tonight." Xiao Su didn't understand why he asked this question. He nodded slightly. "Then did she do anything to you?" Chu Machen's father looked at him strangely. Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Could it be that Father Chu also knew that the little fellow liked to tease people when she was drunk? "What do you mean?" Xiao Su asked. Seeing his son-in-law like this, he definitely didn't do anything. Father Chu couldn't help but look disappointed. He blinked, then patted his son-in-law's shoulder lightly. He said regretfully, "If Kai Kai didn't take the initiative, you could have." "Why are you all so stupid?" Xiao Su was confused. "Take the initiative to what? What's done can't be undone. Stupid." Father Chu looked at him disdainfully. Xiao Su's mouth twitched. This was the first time he was called stupid because of something like this. But as Caicai's father, is it really okay for you to encourage others to have designs on your daughter? As if he saw his son-in-law's surprise, Father Chu glared at him. If it weren't for the fact that father has decided on you, father wouldn't be willing to let others take advantage of our Kai Kai. Xiao Su was speechless. But to be able to gain his father-in-law's approval was already a great help to him. Inverted scallion, you have to work harder. Daddy still wants to hold a grandson. Chu Qian's father harumphed. Xiao Su was in a difficult position. He didn't know how to answer. After talking to himself, Father Chu suddenly leaned in front of him and asked mysteriously, "Son-in-law, when are you going to marry Kai Kai?" After saying so much, this was the most important thing. Hearing this, Xiao Su's eyes rippled with a faint smile. If Qing Yan is willing, she can be the next in line anytime. When he said this, Xiao Su felt his whole body relax a lot. It turned out that he had finally found the reason and the answer to the things he was confused about at this stage. Of course Kai Kai is willing. "Don't worry, father is here. I will answer for her." Father Chu jumped up and down happily, as if he could already see the hope of having a grandson. He was overjoyed. Although Father Chu said this, Xiao Su wasn't reassured. He had to get the little girl's answer personally. Great old Master Chu, I have a favor to ask of you. Chapter 690. Go ahead, son-in-law. It was the first time his son-in-law had requested something so seriously. Chu Machen's father was delighted and immediately nodded. Xiao Su paused for a moment before replying, I hope you can keep what I just told you a secret. Don't let anyone else know, especially Qing Yan. Chu Machen's father thought for a moment before beaming with joy. I know. You want to give Kai Kai a surprise. Okay, no problem. Father promises you. It's a small matter. Xiao Su smiled when he heard that. After explaining the matter to his son-in-law, Chu Machen's father asked, Son-in-law, do you want to accompany father to admire the stars? A flock of crows flew overhead. After a moment, Xiao Su said, It's getting late. You should rest early. Mr. Chu thought for a moment, then raised his head to look at the dark night sky without a moon. He felt that what Mr. Chu said made sense. Then, he yawned and waved at him. Then you should go to bed early too. Let me tell you, I have Dan Yang to accompany me. I can sleep very comfortably. When you and Kai Kai get together in the future, you will be able to experience the benefits of two people's world. After showing off, Chu Machen's father walked back leisurely. Xiao Su shook his head with a smile. However, he couldn't help but imagine the situation when he and the little fellow were together. It would be wonderful. He laughed and planned to return to his room. At this moment, Turin appeared beside him. He lowered his head slightly and said, Master, we found out where the young princess consort went today. Speak. The young princess consort made a bet with Jia Hua, a merchant in the river, to revive a dying powder shop. The young princess consort was busy with this matter today. Turin paused and looked at his master hesitantly. He then continued, the person who was with the young princess consort yesterday was Higashio Motetsu. Xiao Su's eyes turned cold at this news. Although the little fellow had explained to him that she treated Higashio Motetsu as a close friend, he still felt unhappy when he heard this news. And, this prince understands. You guys continue to follow up. Xiao Su left these words and went to his room. Turin didn't miss the slight change on his master's face when he heard the news. It seemed that the matter between the little princess and his master was expected to be solved soon. He lowered his head and complied. Outside the window, the sound of birds chirping could be heard. Chu Qingyan was woken up by the noise. She turned over and pulled the blanket over her head, trying to chase away the sound, but it didn't seem to work. In the end, she simply sat up. She clenched her fists and hit her head. How much did she drink last night? Why did she still have a splitting headache? If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have drunk it. She was simply reaping what she sowed. Just as she was cursing herself in her heart, a rustling sound came from the side. She couldn't help but look up and see Xiao Fan's family of 3 looking straight at her. She raised her hand subconsciously. Morning, a white ball imitated her and raised its paw. Then, it felt that it was very fun and the few of them played together. Chu Qingyan shook her head and laughed in spite of herself. As expected, they were intelligent animals. Just as she was about to look away, she found that Xiao Fan was staring at her. What is it, Xiao Fan? Chu Qingyan felt curious. Xiao Fan wanted to open its mouth, but when it thought of Xiao Su's gaze last night, it couldn't help but close its mouth and lay on the ground without making a sound. Chu Qingyan didn't expect it to answer. After smiling, she prepared to get up. She still had things to do today, so she couldn't be lazy anymore. Thinking of this, she got up. After she changed her clothes, Xining came in with hot water. Good morning, mistress. Please wash up first. When she was wringing the towel, Chu Qingyan asked thoughtfully, Xining, did I do anything out of line last night? She remembered that after drinking last night, her memory was fragmented. She didn't know how she returned to the bank or how she fell asleep. This feeling of the unknown was really unsettling. Xining hesitated for a moment before saying, I was obviously drunk, but I had to lead the way. Then, I walked into several wrong alleys. Does that count? After returning to the bank, I made a fuss about wanting to see His Highness. Does that count? Xining asked very seriously. His Highness sent me back to my room in the middle of the night. Mistress, do you think that counts? Xining continued to ask. Xining was very studious the whole time and asked curiously. Meanwhile, Chu Qingyan was in a daze the whole time. Her mind was filled with, oh my god, what the hell did she do? It's over. Don't act like a drunkard in front of Big Ice Cube, what's going on? Finally, she collapsed on the bed and sighed to the sky. It's over. She must have lost a lot of face. Xining didn't understand why her mistress was rolling around on the bed and automatically started to clean up the room. After rolling around, Chu Qingyan calmed down. Xining, I'm going out. Aren't you going to have breakfast with His Highness? Xining was surprised. Chu Qingyan stiffened her neck and replied, no, I'll eat outside. I have more important things to do. Actually, she didn't want to admit it because she didn't dare face Big Ice Cube right now, so she randomly made up an excuse. Xining was confused. It wouldn't delay things if she went out after eating. Turan had also said that if her mistress woke up, she should go find His Highness. His Highness was still waiting to eat breakfast with her, but looking at the situation, she would have to send someone to tell Turan later. Chu Qingyan had just left the bank when Xiao Su received the news. He put down the book in his hand. This little fellow still didn't admit it after waking up. It seemed like he had to find a way to leave a deep impression on her, otherwise he would just be worried on the side. He looked at the breakfast on the table and remained silent. Huo Ling looked at his master and felt a bit of fear in his heart. Although he had an inappropriate thought in his mind, his master was too much like a woman who had been abandoned by her master. He silently lowered his head. This thought did not match his master's identity at all. Master, there's news from the capital. Turan rushed into the room with a serious expression on his face. Hearing this tone, he could tell that something important had happened. Huo Ling immediately recovered his serious appearance. Speak. Xiao Su said concisely. This morning, I received a secret letter from Water Spirit. 3 days ago, the southern Sun country attacked our border and injured several hundred people. His Majesty is furious and has already sent an order to send troops to the border in 2 days. Turan's face was serious and his tone was serious. It seemed like the southern Sun country and Sichuan country had officially declared war. Xiao Su's expression suddenly became cold. Master, in the past 2 days, the ministers and His Majesty have been discussing who to send as the general. This morning, we received a letter from the Empress. She wants you to recommend yourself to His Majesty to lead the troops. Turan immediately reported the second piece of news. Chapter 691. Empress Liang's secret order caused Xiao Su's expression to darken. Don't worry about her orders for now. Pay close attention to Nan Sun country's movements, as well as the movements of the court. Do not participate in other matters, just wait and see. Yes. Turan nodded. Also, add more people to follow Qingyan. Last time, Muhu's people failed. She might make another move. Ben Wang does not want Qingyan to be harmed for any reason. Turan and Huo Ling looked at each other. Master had revealed his feelings so openly this time. Did he have some progress with little Wang Fei? Even though they could not be sure, from Master's words and actions, it was most likely the case. Master, Higashio Motetsu has appeared in Jiangnan. Should we be more vigilant? Huo Ling raised a question at this time. Xiao Su slightly furrowed his brows. The Moon Palace sect has been targeting Ben Wang since Ben Wang returned to the court. No, Ben Wang suspects that they have been targeting Ben Wang in secret all these years. Since Higashio Motetsu is the young master of the Moon Palace sect, he must be related to the mastermind behind the Moon Palace sect. So, you should pay more attention to him and the Moon Palace sect. If you can find the mastermind behind them, that would be the best. This subordinate understands. But little Wang Fei has been very close with him recently. Do you need this subordinate to remind her? Huo Ling thought for a bit before asking. He heard that when they came back from Fuyang City, little Wang Fei and Higashio Motetsu had returned to Jiangnan together. This matter had angered Master. But when he saw his master talking about Dongting Wangyu in a calm tone, he didn't seem to be angry at all, so he dared to ask this question. Xiao Su furrowed his brows when he heard this. A moment later, he said, Qing Yan is not a confused person. She treats Higashio Motetsu as a friend, but that does not mean she does not care about Ben Wang. Ben Wang will not interfere with her right to make friends. You don't need to act on your own. Just do what you are supposed to do. Ben Wang is not someone who needs to control other people's actions to ensure his own safety. Huo Ling couldn't help but lower his head at Xiao Su's words. As expected, nothing they were thinking could escape Master's eyes. Earlier, when Dongting Wangyu had followed the young Wang Fei to Jiangnan, Xiao Lai had already complained about the young Wang Fei's actions. However, due to his master's protection of the young Wang Fei, no one dared to show it on the surface. Just now, he had only mentioned it slightly and his master had seen through his thoughts. He had been with little Wang Fei for 5 years and could feel her wholehearted devotion to Master. But there were many things that could not be guaranteed or guessed would not happen. He was worried that little Wang Fei would be used by Higashio Motetsu again. It was this subordinate who did not think it through. Master, please forgive this subordinate. Huo Ling blamed himself. Since Master trusted little Wang Fei so much, what reason did they have to doubt her? Chu Qingyan still encountered Higashio Motetsu early in the morning when she left the door. Eldest Gongzi, why are you so diligent every day? You wouldn't have been waiting here for me, right? Chu Qingyan crossed her arms as she looked at the beautiful youth in luxurious purple robes in front of her and teased with a smile. Higashio Motetsu was lazily leaning against the wall at this time. Hearing this, he smiled, seeing that this young master is so diligent, shouldn't Chu Gongzi treat this young master to breakfast? All 3 sentences can't be separated from food. I didn't ask you to wait here on purpose. Therefore, I can only say that you brought this upon yourself. If you want to eat, go and find it yourself. Chu Qingyan waved her hand, looking like she didn't want to bother with him. Then, she continued walking forward. Higashio Motetsu shrugged, then it can only be said that this young master did not see clearly. I thought I met a golden jade, but I didn't expect it to be a broken stone. Chu Qingyan turned a deaf ear. She had urgent matters and could not be delayed here. As she walked, a paper bag suddenly fell in front of her. She couldn't help but stop and raise her hand to take it. Then she turned to look at the person beside her. Where did you buy this? This was her favorite deep-fried dough cake. In the small alley behind you. I heard that it's a century-old shop. I don't know if it's true or not. Try it and see. Chu Qingyan saw that he left this sentence and walked away. The paper bag in her hand was still warm, and she could not help but feel a warmth in her heart. Hearing the voice behind him, Higashio Motetsu removed his pretense of indifference and a faint smile appeared on his lips. Very quickly, the 2 of them arrived at Hibiscus Pavilion. Today, she could witness all the hard work she had put in yesterday. At this time, the shop had just opened, but it was already 2 hours earlier than usual. How is it? Chu Qingyan asked the shop assistant standing at the door. The shop assistant was beaming with joy as he said, Young Master Chu, this is simply godly. We received a business order the moment we opened this morning, and that madam even came with her own daughter and daughter-in-law. She bought so much that it's comparable to the amount of goods our shop sold in a day in the past. Hearing the shop assistant's words and seeing that he was full of energy, as if he had been encouraged, Chu Qingyan was relieved. This is a good start. You guys do your best. Who knows, You might be busy later. The shop assistant nodded heavily. At this time, another group of women came in with their families, and he quickly went to greet them. Chu Qingyan looked at the hibiscus pavilion, which was slowly becoming deserted. She thought to herself that the publicity yesterday must have taken effect. Now, all the people who came early in the morning were either young ladies or rich ladies. It seemed like the socialites hidden in the sleeves of flowers were quite impressive. That was why so many people came. After a while, Hua Xiaoli also arrived. She was stunned by the dense flow of people. I'm not dreaming, right? There are so many people, it's simply amazing. She exclaimed as her eyes widened. I think this is the effect of being famous. Chu Qingyan smiled and winked at her. To be able to get such a reaction from Hua Xiao, it was enough to prove that she had succeeded by half. At this time, men began to come in to choose. It was different from the shy men who came to the cosmetics shop to buy for their families, but they came in with a halo. They were good men who were considerate, role models in the circle. The couple that my father knows has been friends with for several years. When I went to ask for their help yesterday, they agreed immediately. I didn't expect to see results today. Hua Xiao looked at the gradually increasing number of men in her sleeves and said with joy in her heart. Chu Qingyan swept her eyes across the hall. Actually, there's another advantage to this publicity method. Some men like to dress up, but they have no reason to come to the shop to buy for fear of being laughed at. Now, they can come in openly without being looked at strangely. This is also a method to attract customers with needs. Hua Xiao followed her gaze and looked at the man with a white face and no beard who was seriously choosing. She nodded in understanding. You're really amazing. I think that in less than a day, you'll reach the agreement between the two of us. Chu Qingyan shook her head. During this time, the opponent might have some countermeasures. It's still too early to say. Chapter 692. With regards to Chu Qingyan's words, Hua Xiao expressed her agreement. She had fought with the Qin family for so many years and had long understood each other very well. Therefore, before the afternoon came, the other party would definitely have a response. As expected, when Chen Mingyi woke up early in the morning to eat, he heard the servants report. Second young master, today's business at Hibiscus Pavilion is very good. It's completely different from the previous days. Our fragrant powder pavilion's business is dismal. Chen Mingyi was shocked. What is going on? I haven't been to the shop for a day and such a big thing has happened. This servant also doesn't know. Today's Hibiscus Pavilion is like a magnet, attracting many of the famous families in the city. Everyone bought a lot. The servant wanted to cry but had no tears. With such a sudden situation, they were also caught unprepared. I'll go take a look now. Chen Mingyi frowned. When he walked to Fragrant Powder Pavilion, he saw an endless stream of people at the entrance of Hibiscus Pavilion. However, looking at their entrance, it was simply like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. It was as desolate as it could be. Second young master, look. A person pointed at the customers who were carrying big and small bags, his eyes filled with envy. Chen Mingyi's gaze locked onto Hibiscus Pavilion in front of him. His mind began to work. Lu Nua, go and investigate why Hibiscus Pavilion suddenly had such a change. I don't believe that with Hua Xiao's ability, she can think of a countermeasure. Yes, this subordinate will go and investigate. Following behind Chen Mingyi, a thin but shrewd man stood up and quickly went down. Xiao Wu, go and find out what strategy Hibiscus Pavilion is planning. Chen Mingyi continued to instruct. Understood. The shop assistant standing at the side immediately changed his clothes and quickly walked into Hibiscus Pavilion. After a while, Little Five came back. Second young master, anyone who buys in the shop today can enjoy a discount. If a man buys for his family, he can enjoy an even higher discount. After Xiao Wu finished speaking, he recalled a few styles and reported the price. Chen Mingyi was obviously shocked by this discount. It wasn't because of the price, but because of the discount method. This was the first time he heard of such a reason for a discount. Without a doubt, it was easy to evoke the consumer's awareness. Second young master, what should we do? Normally, we've already done several orders, but since we opened this morning, we haven't had a single customer. Little Five had a worried look on his face as he asked his master. Chen Mingyi rubbed his eyebrows, clearly having a headache. His opponent's move was very difficult to counter, unless his eyes lit up. After thinking carefully, he immediately said to Little Five, we can do the same thing as Hibiscus Pavilion, but we can reduce the price by another 10%. Little Five nodded vigorously. Very quickly, the fragrant powder pavilion started to advertise. There were workers shouting outside, offering discounts, gifts, and so on. Soon, it attracted a lot of people. Chen Mingyi sat in a tea house not far away and looked at the situation of the shop downstairs. In less than 2 hours, the crowd began to disperse and gradually rushed to the entrance of his shop. Although it was a little unkind of him to do this, this was the way of doing business. There was nothing to be sorry about. Hua family cat, you probably didn't expect that I would steal the crowd that you worked so hard to attract. How does it feel to work for someone else? Right now, I really can't wait to know how you feel. It must be very satisfying, right? Chen Mingyi tasted his tea and smiled cunningly. Not long after, Hua Xiu found out about the fragrant powder pavilion's actions. She was furious. This Chen Jiawang is a shameless person. He actually dared to steal our method. Now, he's using our name to attract almost half of the people. I've already seen his unscrupulous methods before, but I didn't expect that his shamelessness would reach another level today. It's really an eye-opener. Towards Hua Xiu's anger, Chu Qingyan was very calm. Because in the modern era, as long as there was a good idea, it would be imitated or even stolen by others. Moreover, these methods were just strategies that targeted Hibiscus Pavilion's current problems. It couldn't be considered original, so her emotions didn't fluctuate as much as Hua Xiu. After Hua Xiu finished venting her anger, she turned her head and asked Chu Qingyan, do you have any way to deal with Chen Jiawang's methods? They're lowering the price. Obviously, the profit margin won't be very big. Even if they sell 50 pieces, the profit they earn won't be as much as if we sell 20 pieces. Therefore, we don't have to worry about profit. Chu Qingyan frowned and analyzed. I know this point. They're going for volume, but Chu Qingyan, I have to win this battle. Whether it's profit or volume, I can't allow Chen Jiawang to ride roughshod over my head. During this period of time, he's already suppressing me. Now, he can turn the tables. If he's going for more volume than us, he'll also use it to say things. I can't take this lying down. Chu Qingyan, see if you have any other ideas. Hua Xiu spoke with righteous indignation. She was simply treating Chu Qingyan as a life-saving straw. Chu Qingyan was a little speechless. Were these two people treating this competition as child's play? Although she couldn't understand the dispute between the two of them, Chu Qingyan still thought about it seriously. After all, this was a bet that concerned her. At the very least, she had to win beautifully. Just as Hua Xiu was staring straight at Chu Qingyan, Higashio Motetsu came over and took a nap with a cup of tea. Hua Xiu looked at this devilishly handsome man who had never been nice to her. Hua Xiu, drink some tea to cool down. Give Chu Qingyan some time to think, Higashio Motetsu said to her. Hua Xiu felt that his words made sense. She turned to the person beside her and said, Chu Qingyan, don't be too stressed. Take your time to think. I'm not in a hurry. At this moment, Chu Qingyan thought of an idea. She smiled at Hua Xiu, no need to take your time to think. I already have a countermeasure. Hua Xiu's eyes lit up. Higashio Motetsu also looked at her curiously. Chu Qingyan smiled slyly. Chen Mingyi, who was sitting in the tea house, quickly found out about Hibiscus Pavilion's actions. Hibiscus Pavilion came up with a slogan. They walked the path of high quality and lived the life of a noble. Once this slogan came out, many people immediately rushed towards Hibiscus Pavilion. Chen Mingyi angrily hammered the table, despicable. Although the effect wasn't obvious yet, it wouldn't be long before Hibiscus Pavilion's business would far surpass his. Because this slogan was completely in line with the wishes of many people, it could also give those commoners a sense of satisfaction. It was clear that the outcome of this battle was already very clear. Master, this subordinate has already found the person who stood at Hibiscus Pavilion and planned all of this. Lu Nuo returned to report. Chen Mingyi retracted his hand. His gaze darkened. Who is it? Chapter 693. As soon as Chen Mingyi's words fell, Lu Nuo immediately replied, "Second young master, you guessed right." These methods were indeed not thought of by Hua Xiu herself. Instead, it was a person behind her called Chu Yan who gave her advice. Chen Mingyi was a little surprised. Where did this person come from? Why have I never heard of this person in Jiangnan? Chu Yan is not from Jiangnan. He arrived in Jiangnan in the past month. I heard that it was because he wanted to cooperate with Hua Xiu, but Hua Xiu did not believe in his ability. She made a bet that if he could revive Hibiscus Pavilion's business, he would agree to cooperate with her, Lu Nuo explained in detail. A person who can get along with such a method in such a short period of time is definitely not an ordinary person. Chu Yan will definitely be able to fulfill this bet. Chen Mingyi was silent for a moment, then he said, "Have you found out what kind of business Chu Yan wants to cooperate with Hua Xiu?" This subordinate did not find out. Lu Nuo shook his head. Chen Mingyi was a little disappointed, but his face quickly showed a meaningful smile. No matter what kind of business this Chu Yan wants to do, I will take him down. I will definitely not let Hua Xiu monopolize it. In Hibiscus Pavilion. A day had already passed. Hua Xiu looked at the originally dazzling cabinets that had become empty, and the corners of her mouth could not help but curl up. Moreover, she could not stop smiling for the entire day. When she looked at the opposite side again, it was as if the saddle and horse were sparse in front of the door. She felt that she had finally vented her anger during this period of time. Thus, she turned her head to look at Chu Qingyan, who was sitting quietly and drinking tea, her eyes full of admiration. "Chu Yan, today we have achieved great success. The sales of the finished products in one day is equivalent to half a month of fragrant powder pavilion sales. Your method is really useful. I have no choice but to admit defeat." Chu Qingyan turned her head with a faint smile on her face. "You flatter me. These methods are very common. As long as they are used properly in business, they will produce satisfactory results." Hua Xiuli felt that she was too modest. She clapped her hands and told everyone to get ready to close the door. Then, she turned to Chu Qingyan and Higashio Motetsu and invited them, "Would you two like to have a drink together?" Because Dongting Wangyu had learned that the person in the sleeve was a woman, her previous grudge against her disappeared. Now, she nodded without any objection. As soon as Chu Qingyan heard the word drink, she felt uncomfortable. Xining said that she would do all kinds of stupid things when she was drunk, which caused her to be afraid of alcohol now. In addition, it was already late, and it would probably be the middle of the moon when she went back. She couldn't delay any longer, so she immediately shook her head and refused. "It's getting late, and we still have work to do tomorrow. Let's meet again next time." Hua Xiuli remembered that she still had to go back and report the results of today's work to her father, so she didn't object. Higashio Motetsu was even more indifferent. Thus, everyone went back to their own homes and found their own mothers. However, not long after they left Hibiscus Pavilion, a group of people appeared in front of Chu Qingyan. "Young Master Chu, I've heard a lot about you." A young master in blue stood in front of her with two servants and spoke politely. She had just shown her face in Jiangnan not long ago, and this person already knew her name. Moreover, he had specially waited here. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but feel a sense of vigilance in her heart. You are. My family's second young master is the second young master of the famous Chen family in Jiangnan. Young Master Chu shouldn't have not heard of him. Lu Nua puffed out his chest, looking as if it was natural. Xining, who was standing at the side, heard this and whispered in her master's ear, "This servant has such a big tone," thinking that everyone knows him. Chu Qingyan smiled at Xining's complaint. She politely cupped her hands towards Chen Mingyi. "I've heard a lot about second young Master Chen." Because the other party's smile was sincere, Chen Mingyi felt a little proud. "Oh? Young Master Chu knows me." Chu Qingyan nodded. On the day of Hibiscus Pavilion and Fragrant Powder Pavilion's opening, this one was fortunate enough to see the two young masters' heroic appearances. As soon as she said this, the smile on Chen Mingyi's face disappeared. That day, he and the Hua family's cat were inseparable, and his body was covered in wounds. It couldn't even be described as embarrassing. After he smiled embarrassedly, he returned to his original expression, "Young Master Chu, I'd like to invite you to a cup of tea. I wonder if young Master Chu would do me the honor." Other than the Hua family, the Qin family was one of the wealthiest families in Jiangnan, with countless businesses in their hands. She thought for a moment, then agreed, deference is no substitute for obedience. Seeing that she agreed, Chen Mingyi was delighted. "Young Master Chu, this way please." A moment later, Chu Qingyan and Chen Mingyi sat down in a private room in a tea house. After Chen Mingyi ordered tea, he looked at the person in front of him with the help of the lights in the tea house. He was handsome and beautiful, with a calm demeanor, and the aura of a noble family overflowed from his words. When he wasn't smiling, he had a kind of intimidating aura. Just now on the street, he couldn't see clearly because of the darkness. Now that he saw him, Chen Mingyi couldn't help but be amazed. It was rare to see such a handsome man in Jiangnan. "Young Master Chu, I heard that you want to do business. What are you planning to do?" After Chen Mingyi finished looking at him, he threw a brick to attract Jade. Chu Qingyan had some ideas in her heart. "This one thinks that the Jiangnan cosmetic business is good, and I want to try it." "Then does young Master Chu have a partner in mind?" This time, Chen Mingyi asked directly without hiding anything. This meaning wasn't far from what she had guessed. Chu Qingyan looked at him as if she was in a difficult position. "Yes, but we haven't reached an agreement yet." Chen Mingyi's heart sank. As expected, she was hiding something. He couldn't give up such a talent, so he went straight to the point. "Young Master Chu, this one admires your ability very much. I can't help but admire the battle between Hibiscus Pavilion and Fragrant Powder Pavilion today. I hope that young Master Chu can cooperate with our Chen family." "Don't worry, our Chen family is also a century-old shop." Chu Qingyan's face showed a trace of difficulty when she heard this. Does young Master Chu have any difficulties?" Seeing her expression, Chen Mingyi was a bit impetuous and immediately asked. "Second young Master Chen, this one thinks that your proposal is very good, but this one has already discussed cooperation with the Hua family's young master. If we break the agreement halfway, I'm afraid that wouldn't be too good." Chu Qingyan looked apologetic. "Young Master Chu, how about this? If we cooperate, we'll split the profits 50-50. How about it?" Hearing Chu Qingyan's words, Chen Mingyi was a bit flustered and immediately threw out his bargaining chip. Chu Qingyan touched her chin. This person was a bit impetuous and couldn't take a few words from her to provoke him. Thus, she said apologetically, "Second young Master Chen, I'll go back and discuss this matter with my family first. This matter is so big that I can't make the decision." Xining and Jean Xan looked at each other. Only their master could lie through her teeth like this. "Then young Master Chu can go back and think about it carefully," Chen Mingyi said very generously. Chu Qingyan nodded. On the way back, Chu Qingyan said to Jean Xian, "Think of a way to leak the news of Chen Mingyi coming to poach people to Huaxiu." Jean Xian was a bit surprised. "Master, you're thinking of..." "That's right. Let Huaxiu know that I'm in high demand. It'll be beneficial for future negotiations." Chu Qingyan smiled slyly. Chapter 694. The master and servant trio left the tea house and returned to the bank. As soon as she stepped into the courtyard, Chu Qingyan's mind faintly floated some images. It seemed like she was tugging on the big ice cube's sleeve and saying something. She couldn't help but stop in her tracks. After not talking to the big ice cube for a few days, Chu Qingyan's heart actually became timid. Forget it, it's already so late. Maybe the big ice cube is already asleep. She comforted herself and then turned back to her room. Xining was a bit puzzled. Didn't Master just say that she was going to find His Highness? Why did she suddenly go back on her word? As soon as Chu Qingyan left the courtyard, Xiao Su received the news. He originally thought that she would come tonight to discuss the business in Jiangnan with him. He didn't expect that she would avoid him. Xiao Su stood at the window and watched the lights in the room across the courtyard light up. Not long after, the lights went out again. Only then did he withdraw his gaze. Was the little fellow still angry at him? Xiao Su was a bit puzzled. The night passed once again. Sure enough, when Hua Xiu found out that Chen Mingyi came to poach her people, she couldn't sit still. But because the business today was better than yesterday, she was busy until the afternoon. Chu Qingyan saw that she wanted to say something but stopped, so she pretended not to see. In Chu Qingyan's opinion, although she had a good chat with Hua Xiu these 2 days, when it came to matters of money, it was better to fight for her as much as possible. So she didn't hold back and played a little tricks. After another wave of customers left, Hua Xiu had time to say to Chu Qingyan, who was ordering the servants to tidy up the cabinets, "Chu Qingyan, let's find a place to talk about our cooperation." Chu Qingyan was surprised. Today isn't over yet. Aren't we waiting for the final result? Hua Xiu coughed in a low voice. There's no need. The result is already obvious. Although Fragrant Powder Pavilion is constantly imitating our methods, they're just imitating us and making a fool of themselves. They won't be able to raise too big of a storm, so you can rest assured. Chu Qingyan thought about it and nodded. Because Higashio Motetsu had something to do today, only Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiuli were in the meeting room. Chu Yan, through these 2 days of cooperation with you, I found that you are really a capable person, so I have decided to cooperate with you in the fragrance powder business. As soon as she sat down, Hua Xiu directly said. Although her reaction was within her expectations, Chu Qingyan still had some doubts. Aren't you going to take a look at the goods I provide before making a decision? When we made this agreement, it was to win a chance for you to see the product. Chu Qingyan liked this kind of personality of hers. When it was time to be honest, when it was time to be calculating, when it was time to be calculating. Xiuli, I'm very happy that you said so. Then let's talk about the matter of sharing. Even blood brothers have to settle accounts clearly. Please don't blame me for being so realistic. Chu Qingyan also said frankly. Hua Xiu clapped her hands and smiled. This is human nature. It's not a matter of being realistic or unrealistic. I originally wanted to discuss this matter with you now. Chu Qingyan nodded and listened attentively. My plan is like this. You provide the goods, and I will help you sell them. I will bear the labor, transportation, and losses. We will split the profits 50-50. What do you think? When Hua Xiu said this, she was still a little nervous. Although she made a big concession, she was still worried that Chu Qingyan wouldn't agree. Because that thief Qin Jiawang had already looked for Chu Qingyan in advance. She didn't know how tempting his conditions were. In order to make her suffer, Qin Jiawang had done many things that harmed others and himself. He just wanted to disgust her. At this time, she could only provide convenience in other aspects, hoping that Chu Qingyan would be moved. It had been a long time since she had to wait for a decision. For so many years, she was the one who made others suffer. This kind of feeling was really uncomfortable. Hua Xiu's conditions did indeed move Chu Qingyan. As long as she provided the goods, she could be a shopkeeper and wait for the profits. This was simply too tempting. Chu Qingyan touched her chin and then slowly nodded under Hua Xiu's expectant gaze. Okay. Hua Xiu was wild with joy. She took out a piece of paper from her bosom and then handed it to Chu Qingyan. She impatiently said, "This is the contract. You can take a look. If you have any questions, you can raise them now." Chu Qingyan stared with her eyes wide open. She looked at the contract in front of her in disbelief. This person's speed was too fast. Seeing Chu Qingyan's reaction, Hua Xiu laughed and touched her head. "Who asked you to be so popular? I have to settle you first. Yesterday, only Qin Jiawang went to look for you. Once this matter spreads, there will be more than one person looking for you. Jiangnan's merchants are very cunning." Chu Qingyan heard this and joked. "Then didn't you expose yourself?" Hua Xiu blinked. "I don't deny this. That's why I took the first step." "Then, young Master Chu, after knowing my character, do you still dare to sign this contract?" Chu Qingyan couldn't help but smile. "Just based on your forthrightness, I will recognize you as my partner." After saying this, she picked up the paper and read it carefully. Although Qin Jiawang was a good partner, she didn't appreciate Qin Mingyi's character. Compared to Qin Mingyi, Hua Xiu was more compatible with her. When the contract was signed in 2 copies, the atmosphere between the two became more relaxed. In a few days, the goods will arrive. You can check the goods and see if there are any problems. Although the contract has been signed, the process still needs to be followed. Chu Qingyan said while drinking tea. Hua Xiu agreed. She felt that this Chu Qingyan didn't take an inch and want a mile. He scrupulously adhered to professional ethics, which made her have a better impression of him. While the two of them were discussing the details, a servant quickly walked in. "Young Master Chu, someone is looking for you." Chu Qingyan was a little surprised, and Hua Xiu was also at a loss. Hua Xiu asked, "Did the visitor introduce himself or herself?" "Yes, he said he's from young Master Chu's family." Chu Qingyan was even more confused. Could it be that her father couldn't find her and came to the shop to look for her? She said, "Then let him in first." After the servant left, someone quickly came in. Hearing the familiar footsteps, a figure slowly appeared in Chu Qingyan's mind. When the person entered, Chu Qingyan looked up and met a cold gaze. She couldn't help but stiffen. "Big Ice Cube. Why are you here?" She immediately walked up. "I'm here to settle the score with you." "Ah. An old score." Chapter 695. Accounts? Chu Qingyan's first thought was the bank. Could it be that there was a problem with the accounts that she had given to Xiao Huan? It shouldn't be. She had gone through the accounts that Xiao Huan had made in the past 2 days. She didn't have to worry at all. Moreover, Xiao Huan had learned a lot from Jin Ling. Their cooperation was getting better and better. Xiao Huan could be independent now. Xiao Su seemed to have seen through her thoughts. He lowered his head and whispered in her ear, "It doesn't matter to anyone else. It only concerns you and me." Chu Qingyan was even more confused now. However, Big Ice Cube's eyes were a little unpredictable. Chu Qingyan felt her heart beating wildly. She had a bad feeling. Moreover, Big Ice Cube was so close to her that she suddenly lost her basic ability to think. Although he quickly took a step back, the faint scent of ink still lingered in front of her nose, disturbing her mind. The interaction between the two was extremely ambiguous in Hua Xiu's eyes. She was frightened. Wasn't Chu Qingyan a man? How could she be so intimate with a man? Moreover, listening to the words of the man in the veil hat, it seemed like he was looking for his lost lover. Hua Xiu was shocked by the thoughts that popped up in her mind. She looked at the two of them in disbelief. Xiao Su didn't forget that there was an outsider standing next to them. He glanced at Hua Xiu indifferently. Was this the person that the little fellow wanted to cooperate with? If it weren't for the fact that she was a woman, he definitely wouldn't have let her have too much contact with the little fellow. Although the man who suddenly came to visit was tightly covered by a veil, she could still feel his sharp gaze through her sleeves. Although it was only for a moment, it made her, a person who had experienced big scenes, couldn't help but shrink back. This person was too scary. At this time, Chu Qingyan remembered where she was at this time. She hurriedly pointed to Hua Xiu. This is the young master of the Hua family, Hua Xiu. He will be my partner in the future. Then Chu Qingyan was in a difficult position to introduce the big ice cube. Xiao Su was calm and didn't seem to want to help. Chu Qingyan gritted her teeth and said to Hua Xiu, "This is my brother, Su Xiao." She changed his name without permission. Otherwise, with the name of the King of England, his identity would be exposed in a few days. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Qingyan felt the temperature around her drop a few degrees. She resisted the urge to rub the goosebumps on her skin. She braced herself and found a place to look, not daring to look at the person beside her. Even if she didn't look, she could tell that his expression was ugly. Could it be that he wasn't satisfied with the name she gave him? Or the identity of her brother? But wasn't that what he said himself? He treated her as his younger sister, so she was just going with the flow. Thinking of this, she felt a little disappointed. It turned out to be her brother. Hua Xiu found a reason for their ambiguous behavior just now. A smile bloomed on Hua Xiu's face. I didn't expect Chu Yan's big brother to be so handsome. Nice to meet you. Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched when she heard this. The big ice cube was clearly wearing a curtain hat, so she couldn't see anything, okay? She was ashamed of her own inferiority when it came to lying through his teeth. Xiao Su looked deeply at Chu Qingyan, then said, "You guys have something to discuss first. I'll wait for you to finish." Feeling his heavy gaze on her, Chu Qingyan secretly swallowed her saliva. Hua Xiu smiled awkwardly at Xiao Su's coldness. It seemed that Chu Yan's brother was really not easy to get along with. However, she wasn't doing business with him, so Hua Xiu didn't have much resistance. "We're almost done with the contract, we should," Hua Xiu smiled. But before she could finish, Chu Qingyan interrupted her. "I think there are still a few areas in the contract that need to be renegotiated." Chu Qingyan felt that the big ice cube was definitely up to no good. She had to stall for time first, so she said hurriedly. Hua Xiu wasn't the only one who said this. Even Xiao Su's gaze stopped on her. Hua Xiu was a little confused, but since it was brought up, she should take advantage of this time to resolve it. "Okay, then let's continue." Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief, then took out the contract and reviewed it again. Xiao Su found a seat at the side and sat down. Someone had already served him tea. His posture was relaxed and he looked very patient. Chu Qingyan read from the first word to the last word and realized that this contract had considered all possibilities. There was nothing to be picky about. She felt that she had dug a hole for herself, and then she jumped into it without hesitation. "Take your time. I'm not in a hurry." Xiao Su's voice sounded at the right time, as if he had seen through her trick. Hua Xiu nodded. "It's okay. You have to be careful about this kind of thing." Chu Qingyan clenched the piece of paper in her hand tightly, her palms sweating. She felt even more guilty as she surrendered. "I've read through it a few times, and I feel that the problem just now no longer exists." "You've already considered everything in your sleeves." Hua Xiu smiled and said, "That's good. We've reached an agreement. I hope we can cooperate happily in the future." Chu Qingyan gave a sincere smile. "Oh right, I wonder if Chu Qingyan and your brother are married. The shop has some new rouge and face powder. You can choose a few and give them to your wives or women you like." Hua Xiu said generously, expressing her sincerity. Before Chu Qingyan could answer, the person sitting next to her suddenly said, "If there's anything you like, pick a few for yourself." "For myself?" Hua Xiu looked at Chu Qingyan in horror. Wasn't she a man? Could it be that she also liked to dress up? Chu Qingyan looked at Hua Xiu's strange expression helplessly. She probably misunderstood. It was all the big ice cube's fault for exposing her so quickly. She coughed softly, then confessed to Hua Xiu. Xiu, I'm the same as you. I'm not a man. I just dress up as a man to make it easier for me to walk around. This time, Hua Xiu was even more shocked. So the beautiful young man was a girl. Xiao Su was very satisfied with Hua Xiu's reaction. He had made the little fellow's identity clear from the beginning, so that he wouldn't have any thoughts about the little fellow in the future. Some things were better nipped in the bud. Chu Qingyan probably would never have thought that Xiao Su had this idea. At this time, she still felt guilty to Hua Xiu. I wanted to tell you after the cooperation was successful, but it's not too late to confess now. Xiu, my real name is Chu Qingyan. I'm very happy to meet you. Hua Xiu had already accepted this fact. She said sincerely, no wonder I hit it off with you. You're more successful than me in disguising as a man. But I'll still call you Chu Yan in the future. Thus, the two women who would affect the entire Sichuan business circle in the future reached a consensus today, paving the cornerstone for their future fame. Because there was still a person beside her who didn't speak but had a strong sense of presence, Hua Xiu didn't dare to keep too many people. After Chu Qingyan picked a few cosmetics, she sent the two of them out. Just as Chu Qingyan boarded the carriage, the man with the overbearing aura glanced at her and left after saying a few words. I'm not her brother. Chapter 696. Hua Xiu raised her eyebrows as she watched the man in the loose robe disappear behind the curtain. Chu Qingyan said that he was her brother, but he denied it. Could it be that the two of them had some other unspeakable relationship? Wait, Hua Xiu suddenly remembered what she said to the two of them just now. If he had a wife or a girl he liked, but this person said that Chu Qingyan could choose. Could it be that the two of them, she replayed their previous intimate actions, and Hua Xiu suddenly understood. So, Su Xiao was declaring his sovereignty over her. She couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. She was a virgin, okay? She wasn't a homosexual. Also, just now, she only said a few words to Chu Qingyan, but his gaze was like a needle on her back. His possessiveness was really strong. Thinking of this, Hua Xiu had already silently classified Xiao Su as an unfathomable person. Until the carriage disappeared into the crowd, Hua Xiu didn't think much and turned back to the shop. She still had a lot of things to do tonight. Compared to a certain someone who took off his veil hat and revealed his youthful face, Chu Qingyan was a little restless. However, a certain someone didn't seem to want to take the initiative to speak. He leaned against the wall of the carriage and closed his eyes to rest. Chu Qingyan felt that the atmosphere was a little oppressive, but she didn't dare to look at him directly. She touched here and there until she carefully touched everything in the carriage. The person beside her still had a strong aura that couldn't be ignored as he leaned against the wall with his eyes closed. Chu Qingyan had always been patient, but at this moment, she had used up all her patience. She felt that she couldn't be more uncomfortable being hung like this. Big Ice Cube, she decided to take the initiative to speak. Otherwise, she would be suffocated later. Her soft call was met with a soft response from Xiao Su, but he still closed his eyes, as if waiting for her to continue. Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva and asked in a low voice, Big Ice Cube, what did you want to settle with me just now? What do you think? He asked back. She asked because she didn't know. Chu Qingyan felt that she was going to be tortured by this inexplicable aura. Big Ice Cube, don't hide half of your words. You know I'm not smart. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but complain. At this time, Xiao Su slowly opened his eyes. His gaze fell on her body with some unknown light. To be able to quickly come up with a countermeasure and revive a shop that was on the verge of closing down in 3 days, do you think such a person is stupid? Chu Qingyan's scalp tightened. Was the ice cube praising her? Why wasn't she happy at all? Isn't that relative to you? In front of you, who dares to claim to be smart? Chu Qingyan felt that if she had a tail, it would be wagging happily right now. However, Xiao Su did not seem to be moved by her flattery at all. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Is that so? Let me give you a hint. What are you hiding from me? Keep it a secret." Chu Qingyan pursed her lips. "Which one are you referring to?" Xiao Su couldn't help but smile, but it didn't seem to reach his eyes. "Looks like you've hidden quite a lot." "Very good." The carriage was fine just now, but now the temperature plummeted, as if they had returned to winter. Chu Qingyan laughed and said, "Not much, not much. Just a few. I just didn't have time to tell you." Speaking of this, she felt inexplicably guilty. Finally, she drooped her shoulders and said, "My bet with Flower Sleeve was 3 days ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't know if I would succeed. I was afraid that if I told you in advance, if I lost, it would be very embarrassing." So this was what she was worried about. Xiao Su's gaze couldn't help but soften a little. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. No one succeeds in one go. Falling down is to make it easier for you to climb up. And you didn't disappoint me this time. You did very well. Really? Chu Qingyan instantly looked up. Her eyes were bright, like a little child who was anxious to get affirmation. Xiao Su's lips curled up slightly, and he nodded. Chu Qingyan felt as if the sky had cleared up. Although she had reached an agreement with Flower Sleeve, it wasn't as joyful as hearing Big Ice Cube's affirmation. But before she could bloom into a smile, the person in front of her had already put away his expression. "This matter is over. Next." This person was too much of a killjoy. Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched. But in view of a certain person's powerful existence, she couldn't ignore him even if she wanted to. Chu Qingyan continued to tell the truth. "There's one more thing that I didn't tell you. When I went to Fuyang City, I met Higashio Motetsu. He saved me time and time again. I think that life is very short. If I spend it arguing about right and wrong, it's too much of a waste of time. So, I shook hands with him and made peace." Speaking of this, she secretly glanced at a certain person. Seeing that his expression didn't change, she continued, "But I've already made it clear to him that he can't use me or have any other ulterior motives." She had already confessed this matter to him when she was drunk the night before. But sober and drunk situations were different. Since she could take the initiative to tell him, it meant that she really treated Higashio Motetsu as a friend. But whether Higashio Motetsu was a friend or not, she didn't know. Seeing that he didn't have any reaction after hearing her words, Chu Qingyan felt even more uncertain. She took the initiative to approach him, and tried to pull his sleeve. "Don't be angry. I didn't know that you were asking about this in the study. I didn't mean to hide it from you. This matter is over. Next." Next. Chu Qingyan was stunned. She was still hiding something from him. Why didn't she know? Could it be? "You know that the painting in the study was accidentally damaged by me?" When Chu Qingyan blurted it out, Xiao Su's eyes clearly twitched. A few days ago, he found that the painting in his study was missing. He thought that it was the servants who put it away, but he didn't expect that she was the one who destroyed the evidence. Seeing that his expression was obviously not right, Chu Qingyan felt that she had said something wrong impulsively. She felt like she was digging her own grave. In the end, she had already broken down and simply smashed the pot. "The missing fish in the kitchen was stolen by me in the middle of the night for Xiao Fan to eat. It was too late at that time. I didn't want to disturb everyone, so I directly climbed through the window to get it. No wonder Jean Ling reported to him that there was a thief in the bank. He didn't steal anything else but food. It should be a trader who could come and go freely in the bank. It made him think that he didn't treat his subordinates well enough, so they went hungry in the middle of the night. He even thought about whether to improve their treatment. The last time the matchmaker came, I planned to matchmake for Huoling. I didn't expect that he would be so scared that he hid. So the reason Huoling disappeared for a few days was because of this little fellow? Then Chu Qingyan talked about everything that had happened to her. She was immersed in a world of self-reflection, but she didn't notice that the face of the person beside her was getting darker and darker. These questions were all irrelevant. A black shadow covered her. When Chu Qingyan looked up, it was already too late. Tell me, why did you hide from me these past few days? This was the most important question. One of the questions. Chapter 697. The panicked Chu Qingyan raised her head and coincidentally bumped into his chin. She cried out in pain and couldn't help but hold her head and groan in pain. Xiao Su's chin was not lightly bumped by her, but seeing her grimacing in pain, he first reached out to her swollen forehead and gently rubbed it. His tone was slightly reproachful as he said, "You're already an adult, why are you still so careless?" Although it was a reproach, his expression was still filled with endless pampering. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but pout. "Wasn't it because you suddenly got so close that you scared me?" But she only dared to hide these words in her heart. After a moment, she felt the warm hand on her forehead leave, but her heart still felt like it was not enough. The big ice cube's technique had improved greatly in the past few years, and it seemed like it was all thanks to her training. Pay. What training? It should be said that it was credit. Xiao Su naturally didn't know what nonsense she was thinking. He looked at her forehead and after confirming that there was no problem, he continued to speak. Speak what? She still hadn't recovered from the shock. The reason to escape. Xiao Su sighed in his heart. Why was it that she was so shrewd outside and could see through people's hearts in the blink of an eye, but she was so confused in front of him? This was because he had forgotten that before he saw his own heart clearly, he and Chu Qingyan were nothing more than the same person. Her nervous emotions from earlier were surging again because of his reminder. I'm angry with you." At this moment, the carriage was moving forward and she was inside the carriage. Although the person in front of her was not as close as before, that aura that couldn't be ignored was pervasive. She wanted to escape from his hands. Chu Qingyan weighed her own ability and immediately gave up. How could she be a match for the big ice cube? To be exact, her martial arts had been taught by him for the past 4 years. The student surpasses the master. How was that possible? So she bit her lower lip and snorted like a child in a fit of pique. In any case, he had always treated her like a child. Xiao Su was stunned. Then he remembered what she said when she was drunk. It seemed that it was true. Because of what happened in the study. She reluctantly admitted, "You've never been so stern with me, and I'm not pleased." Xiao Su's lips curled into a smile that resembled a blooming epiphyllum in the night. The little fellow had finally confessed to him. Although Chu Qingyan felt indignant that she was the one who was hurt, why did she have to bow down to him? However, when she saw the person who was more dazzling than the moonlight, especially the faint smile in front of her, Chu Qingyan immediately forgot what she was thinking. Seeing the little fellow's infatuated expression, Xiao Su was in a good mood. He stepped back and no longer restrained her space. Although Chu Qingyan couldn't see through his smile, she could feel the relaxed atmosphere in the air. She knew that big ice cube was in a good mood, but she didn't know why he suddenly changed. Just when she thought she had escaped, that pleasant and moving voice sounded again. This should only be one of the reasons. What else? What else? Chu Qingyan was at a loss. Even she didn't know the answer. Seeing that she didn't seem to be faking it, Xiao Su sighed again. This little fellow was really slow. Or do you have something in your heart that you want to ask me, but you don't dare to ask? Xiao Su had already reminded her very straightforwardly. She had already asked that question when she was drunk, but he didn't give her an answer because he knew that even if he said it, she wouldn't remember it when she woke up. So he didn't want to say it a second time. He just wanted to leave it for her to answer when she was sober. The little fellow's expression that night was very insecure, so he wanted to dispel her concerns. Unfortunately, someone misunderstood him again. Can I really ask anything? Chu Qingyan felt that this was a rare opportunity. Her eyes lit up as she looked at the person in front of her. Xiao Su was dazzled by the light in her eyes. He felt that no matter what expression his little Wang Fei made, it was more unique than other girls and was pleasing to the eye. But he didn't know that this was called beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But it couldn't be denied that Chu Qingyan's appearance was enough to be in the top 3 among the girls in Sichuan. She was also one of the 8 young masters. Back to the main topic. Xiao Su did not answer, but the relaxed expression on his face showed that he had acquiesced to her question. Then I won't be polite. Chu Qingyan slyly narrowed her eyes and then crossed her arms as she looked at him. What bad habits do you have? Xiao Su gave a muffled cough. He felt that this little fellow's words were heavier than the enemy's iron fist. She really knew how to change the topic. He wanted to give up on this method of persuasion, but when he raised his head, he saw her wide eyes waiting expectantly for his answer, so he gave up on the idea. Whether I have bad habits or not, shouldn't you be very clear? He asked in return. The big ice cube's words seemed to have a bit of resentment, as if she didn't care about him at all. It's because I didn't notice it even after being together for so many years, so I want to know if you hid it too deeply that I didn't notice it. She said it so righteously. From a long time ago, she had been paying attention. She felt that the heavens were fair and that it was impossible for everyone to be perfect. But this person seemed to be left behind by the Creator. He was so perfect that no one could find a single flaw. His bearing was dignified and elegant. He was well versed in the world. He was skilled in both civil and military matters. He was skilled in all kinds of fields and each one of them was top-notch. This made her feel inferior. So this question had always been in her heart. Then you don't have it. Xiao Su replied without blushing. Chu Qingyan acted like she had discovered a new continent. You're shameless. Thank you for the compliment. Xiao Su accepted it calmly. Chu Qingyan snorted. I'm talking about your bad habits. As if he felt that this question couldn't be resolved without an answer, Xiao Su reluctantly recalled his experience from birth until now. Then he looked at her with a slightly subtle expression. Chu Qingyan met his gaze and felt that his gaze was a little strange. You thought of it? If you have to define a hobby, then it's like raising a child. After watching her grow up, you don't want to let go and want to keep raising her. He looked into her eyes and said word by word. His tone was so serious that it was as if he was reciting holy words. She was shocked and didn't digest his words at all. She muttered, how is this a bad habit? In other people's eyes, a hobby that is nonsense is bad. But to me, the only hobby is you, and only you. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.